Welcome, horror fam, to HHN365, Halloween Horrors podcast. My name is Mike, and I'm here with my co-hosts Duff, Jess, and Jonathan. All I can do is sigh.
I can say "ow." That's
Yeah.
appropriate. Ow.
Ow.
My
Ow.
voice is
My legs
gone.
are numb. My legs are numb. Jonathan's voice is gone.
It's a good pain.
On today's show, we will be talking about our first weekend experience. We have a lot to cover, but before we get to it, on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, you can find us at HHN365. And on TikTok, you can find us at HHN365pod. We have amazing Discord. The link is in the description. And we have a merch shop at HHN365.com. You can always leave us a voicemail at 407 906 4134.
So, in some 365 news, we are happy to say that we were invited out for Media Night. So, thank you so much to Universal's PR team for having us out again. Of course, that means we were able to film in all 10 houses, and it was Mike who had the pleasure this time of doing that. So, before I ask you, I do want to point out, you can check out all these on YouTube. All 10 house walkthroughs are available, so go check out our YouTube. And if you haven't been to the event yet and you kind of want to follow along, though, go watch those now. But Mike, what'd you think about the actual experience of Media Night itself?
Oh, it was great. It was fantastic. I know you and Jess have done it a couple of years back. This is the first time I got to do it, and I thought it was a lot of fun. We went to Soundstage 33, and they had like a reception for us for the first couple of hours. Kind of wined and dined us. Sinister and Surreal maybe showed up and tried to get our souls. It was a lot of fun. And I may have had some body gore and some whatever Surreal does. I don't know.
Surreal horror.
Surreal. Oh, yeah.
Mike has been
We're
the
still
closest
not
to
sure
surreal and still doesn't understand what's going on.
I don't quite understand it.
That's fair.
We'll
That's
pick
fair.
it up eventually. And then there was the presentation from Laura Sauls. Did anything stand out from that?
It was just kind of, I would say, like the Cliff Notes version for those who don't spend all the time talking about this, like 365 days a year. I think it's like for like the like local news. Like it was a very standard little PR blurbs about each kind of house. Nothing for anyone who was listening to this show necessarily. It wasn't going to be anything new. It was just kind of all standard stuff.
Gotcha. And of course, you do have the RIP tour you went on to get to go through all 10 houses. And kind of outside of that, as you mentioned, what you got to do is eat and drink. So I think we can kind of discuss food and drink that we had. Mike, if you want to kick it off with some of the items that you had at Media Night.
Yeah, so they kind of, very similar to Taste of Terror, they had themed booths kind of in Soundstage 33. The highlights to me was like definitely the Monstrose booth. I don't know if everyone else agrees, but I feel like all of those items are pretty banging. I know, Duffy, you're not a big mole guy, but I think that pork is absolutely delicious. Also the skewer, the chimichurri skewer is really great. The tacos. I love the Monstrose booth for sure. Also the snack bar is a lot of fun. I like the items in that. What do you guys think?
So I actually had the pork with the mole, and I enjoyed it a lot. The mole wasn't super chocolatey by any means.
Oh no,
it was just like a really nice sauce. And as you mentioned, the pinchos with the chimichurri were really fucking good. I enjoyed those a lot as well. So I think I've had the most from that booth. So it's kind of unfair to say it's my favorite, but just by default, it's my favorite so far.
Yeah, I mean, I could eat Mexican like for every meal, and I'd probably be fine.
The cocktail, the Depredadora, is very delicious, even though I'm allergic to pineapple and only got to drink half of it. It was a very well-balanced, kind of like rum punch-esque drink, like a different take on a rum punch. It was very good.
I did not know you were allergic to pineapple.
I didn't know until like a couple months ago.
Oh, it was a new allergy.
Yeah.
That's
unfortunate.
every fun drink ever.
I was
I
gonna
know.
say I'm pretty sure I've had El Pastor tacos
Yeah.
with
Oh
you.
You
yeah,
have.
You
recently I feel like.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'll still try pineapple stuff happily, but my tongue might burn a little bit. That's all.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We have
did.
a friend that has a citrus allergy, so I get
It's
it.
true.
They can't drink 90% of the drinks at HHN, so
Yeah.
I did not have the monstrous booth yet. So now you guys are making me want to make that a priority this week.
You should. You should. Those pinchos,
Okay.
very delicious.
I have to say the mocktails. I didn't try them at media night, but I did try them at Premium Scream, which is will be another episode when I review that. But the mocktails this year are really fun. I really like what they're trying to do. Like it seemed like most booths at least had one mocktail option. I don't know if I would spend $8.50 for them, but I really enjoyed them.
I think it's a fantastic option because I know we have friends and there's many people who don't drink. They don't want to drink or choose not to, and that's totally fine. And I think having the mocktail options is a fantastic thing that they can experience at the event. I know it's something that a lot of people have been sort of hoping for, especially with last year's. I think the Stranger Things booth had the mocktail that a lot of people enjoyed. And so I think spreading that throughout the park and having a lot more options is a fantastic thing.
Definitely,
Mhm.
yeah,
I'm kind of like you, Mike. Though we're like at that price point, probably not really going to grab them. It's either I'm going to grab an alcoholic beverage or drink water. I'm not going to, like juices just aren't my favorite. I drink water naturally, anyways. It's like my favorite drink. So paying $8.50 for like something that doesn't have alcohol,
yeah.
no, I'll probably pass on. But I love that they have it. There's people who A, can't drink, B, choose not to drink, and they've never really had a wide array of selections for them. And it seems like
Mm.
this year they're finally really stepping it up.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I got to try nearly most of them, and I thought that all of them were really pretty solid. But so I actually might spend for my favorites. I might spend $8.50 every once in a while. They were a lot of fun options, honestly.
Good to know. Well, I mean, my favorite thing I tried, I don't know if anybody else tried it. I know Duff did because we both had it. The fish and chips from the Monsters
Mm,
booth is, I think,
Yeah,
my favorite thing at the event so far.
I missed it. I missed that one. For that's like the one thing
Mike.
I missed. I
it
know.
it
I've
is
had a
better.
lot of food and beverage compared to
Oh,
previous years, and
Mm.
that is just the one thing I missed. And it's on my list. I'm gonna pay good money for it, but
yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh
try.
yeah, it's not cheap. I
Oh,
honestly think the fish quality of the fish and chips, actually the fries too, the whole dish, the quality of it is better than what you get in the park outside of that booth. Like they
hmm.
have a better fish and chips than they do anywhere else in the park.
Yeah, I think so. I am worried because I saw that Hollywood's going to have it. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know if I want to try that on the buffet, y'all.
I'll try it. I'll give it a
I'll
shot.
try it because it's included. I'm not
I'll
paying
do
for
it
it.
off the buffet. I won't do it
Yeah.
from a booth. No offense
My
to
trick of the
Hollywood
buffet is you
members.
bang down the door. You get there, you're like the very first person, so your germs covers it, and you don't get other people's
Oh,
germs.
hey, that's why we booked the first or close
Hmm.
to the first RIP tour. So we start the day there
Yeah.
as it opens. We head over to the buffet. Num num num. Done.
No, no,
Nom nom
no.
nom.
Num num num.
Right on.
Do you not eat like that? You don't go num num num?
I,
Am I alone in this?
you
Are
know
you
what?
Pac-Man? No?
Yeah,
Rah, rah, rah,
I
rah,
don't
rah.
know. I guess that we'll find out when we go to Hollywood. We'll take a video and we'll see who's nom nomming. That'll be the YouTube content for that week.
Nom nom counter. Just every time it happens, just ding ding
Oh
ding.
boy, that's a lot of
That would be
nums.
funny. Um, oh my god. I did also have the falafel from this booth, and that was not a highlight for me. I would like to
Oh,
say it was cold. Very cold.
Mm.
um,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
did
there are a few
also.
misses too. I don't want to hype on get too
Yeah.
negative too early, but there are a few food
Mhm.
items that do miss. I'm looking at you, pumpkin guts.
Oh, I've heard the opposite. I haven't had it yet, but I heard someone who liked it a lot.
Really?
I
Mhm.
Maybe it was just it was definitely undercooked. So, and it would make sense
Ah,
that
okay.
I had it at Premium Scream where they're cranking those things out left and right. So maybe
Mhm.
that was maybe I'll give it another
Just a
shot.
Yeah,
yeah.
I will say I had it, I think the second night, and I didn't have many problems with it. So it might have just been a premium Scream Night thing because I know they probably just had a lot of them just sitting out, most likely and getting ready to give out and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wasn't. I liked mine that I had. Don't it wasn't. It's not really my thing, but I tried it because like someone else got it, so I tried some of it and I enjoyed it. So yeah, hopefully that level of cookedness and everything and the quality continues throughout the event.
Cool.
And I will say also it's something else from that Goblins booth. I had two things. One, the goblin pie, which I thought was okay. It wasn't like anything special. It was tasty, and I got it because it's goblin pie, and that's important for me. So it was okay. It was fine. It's sort of like a just mini apple pie. It's not like in a tin. It's just like it's kind of. I hate comparing it like this, but it is kind of like that. It's like a McDonald's apple pie with some sugar and raspberry. I think it's raspberry drizzle on it. I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad. And it's good for when you're walking in the park and maybe you want something on the go. It's kind of easy to eat, which is nice. Um, but I also had the wing, the
Oh, you
turkey wing.
did. I was about
Hmm.
to ask you.
Oh my god, I am a big proponent, as I've always been, at how much food you get for your money. Because I try my best not to spend a lot of money every night, even though I do. I think the wing right now might be the most filling option that I've tried for the price point. There is so much meat on there, and I think it's only like $7, less if you have an annual pass discount. That I think it's definitely something that you should try if you're there because I think it's a very good wing. It's messy because it's a wing with sauce on it. That's a little spicy, not too spicy, but there is some little bit of hotness there. But I think it's delicious, and it's nothing like spectacular. But if you compare, you know, price to food, like to the amount of food, I right now I think it wins.
Yeah, I saw that bad boy, and I just was not ready to gnaw on a giant piece of meat like that.
Yeah.
And I don't like getting messy. That's just like my weird quirk. Is like I like I don't get like sauce on the beard and stuff. Like I did not partake in the giant turkey wing, but it is huge, and I'm sure eventually at one point I will try it
I
when I'm
guess you're
about to
not a
leave the
true
park.
goblin, Mike. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why
not,
he's
not gonna
Goblethin.
Yeah, that's why
goblin
we
on
got
it.
Goblethin over here.
God damn it.
Goblethin. Mike doesn't work for like a goblin name. That's why Jonathan is there.
No,
I'm
Yeah.
no.
sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
will
get it.
not
I
try that
understand.
wing. I
Has
will not
anyone
do
else
that.
not on that giant that giant bad
No.
boy?
Not yet. I
No,
do look
thank
forward
you.
to it. I can't wait to take a big fat bite of that meat.
Maybe we
Oh.
can make a YouTube video of us.
Oh, we will be
No.
monetizing us
Gnawing into
biting
it.
on a big. Did anybody have the hot dog from Slaughter Cinema? Speaking of non, big fat meat,
I wanted to, but no, I
the
didn't.
baked bean one. I
No.
don't like baked beans, so I did not. I think Brian in my group did, and I
Mhm.
think he liked it. I might be
Okay.
wrong,
I mean, the
but
ingredients, outside of being weird that baked beans are on it, don't seem out there, really.
hey, there wasn't
Cheetos.
bubblegum mustard on it this year.
Huh.
That's all I care about. But the
I
waffly
didn't have
hot
that
dog.
one, but I did have the Ghostbusters cheese dog.
Hmm.
Okay.
How was that?
It wasn't as good as last year. I have
Oh,
to admit.
gotcha.
It's just cheese, right? There's no hot dog in there.
No, there's a
Or
hot
no?
dog in there.
Oh, there
It
is?
is.
Okay, nobody
There's a
has
hot dog in
confirmed
there.
that for me.
It's hard to
Cool.
find because there's so much
Yeah,
cheese, but
it's
it's hidden in there.
I've heard that before.
It's a
oh
grower,
god.
not a shower.
Tough.
Sorry.
It's in
Uh,
there. It's in there somewhere.
well, you want to talk about showers? The other corn dog at the Ghostbusters booth. I did try that toothpaste monstrosity. I did not pay for it, thank God. But
Mhm.
did anybody else try it before
Nope.
I explain the process? Mike, did you try it?
Did not. No.
Not even for free?
Not even for free. There was just so many options. Just
Fair.
like could have just spent like just going to each booth, and I did quite a bit of that. But I would have been there and just basically all night eating food but I had like nine items
Oh my
that
god,
night.
that is a lot.
Yeah.
So the toothpaste dog, it's not that bad at first. Like for me, texture wise, it all really worked together because like the bugles gave you the crunch, you had the corn dog batter, like it was good. It was just that the filling at first it was a really good minty flavor. It wasn't artificial or anything, and then when you looked at it while you were eating it, for me, there was like physically no way for me not to feel like I just took a glob of toothpaste straight out of the tube.
Yeah.
And that ruined the
Oh,
whole thing for me.
I
And
believe
I was
I
done.
watched someone partake of this. Now that you're talking about it, the bugle one from Ghostbusters, yes,
Yeah, with the blue
the
filling.
steak, yeah, the cheesecake
Mhm.
thing, yes.
Yeah, not a lot of cheesecake. I wanted to like it. I
oh,
feel
that's
like if it
unfortunate.
was like a chocolate filling, a s'mores filling, and I know that there's already a s'mores thing there, but like if there was something else that wasn't minty and didn't, even if maybe if it didn't look like toothpaste, maybe it's just the visual thing for me, but I wanted to like this so bad because I loved the experience of it and then I hated it.
Mm.
So
Speaking of the s'mores thing, there, I had it.
mm,
It's
Oh yeah, that one's fun.
I did
Oh yeah,
too.
It's
I had
yummy.
that too.
it's a s'more.
Delicious.
Yeah.
That's about
It's
all I gotta
cute.
say. It's a
It's hard to
s'more.
mess it up.
It's a novelty s'more that tastes like a s'more,
Was
so it's
yours
fine.
hot or warm?
It was warm.
Mine was warm.
Oh, mine was mine was as warm as the air was outside. If it was warm,
Okay, which is
it
pretty
was
warm.
torched. No, it was not. It was like when you make a s'more and like someone doesn't melt the marshmallow enough, and you're like, I'll still eat it.
Mm.
It's fine. It was not
Okay.
melted, but it was still a s'more, so
Mm.
I was fucking happy regardless. And look how cute he was.
Yeah.
Like,
It again. It's a novelty item.
not
If you
complaining.
like a s'more, you're gonna like that. So
Absolutely. But maybe get one that
um,
like they just torched.
yeah, right. Can you torch this a little more? Did anyone else have any other food they wanted to discuss before we hop into maybe some specialty beverages?
I like the egg dish in Insidious, the
Ah, I
Insidious
forgot I
booth.
tried that. That shit
Mm.
was good. Yeah, I like that a lot. That like
Mhm.
that just has like a tomato based sauce on it with like some onions. Really good. I enjoyed it. It's filling. It's pretty good size. It's obviously a lot of bread. Um, yeah, it didn't blow my mind, but it's a really solid item.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I think right now, out of all the things I've tried, it might be number two, with number one being that wing.
Hmm. Also from the Insidious booth, I did try the Red Door, which is very similar to like the lentil coffins. This time
Mhm.
without lentils, it's just going to be. I want to say they have like curry powder in it, and then also potato and onion. It's fine. It was a little too bready,
Yeah,
but it was fine enough, I guess.
I did try that at media at night. I had that one. It was
Mm.
okay.
I took a
there,
bite of it. I feel the same. It's fine.
there's one more thing I want to go over because I think it's one of the most unique ways of giving out food at the event. Did anyone try anything food related at the Quiet Place booth?
I did, but I did not order it. So I did not get I heard about it. I heard
Mm-hmm.
about the experience. So you can't talk.
Exactly. Like
What?
I
Yeah.
got the eclair,
Okay.
and it's huge. It's a huge eclair. It looks great. I think it's delicious. But going up to the to the stand, we're just walking through, and we are all sort of playing along. Oh, be quiet, shh, whatever. But then when we actually like got up and they were making the food, they were actually playing along, and they were making the food like as quiet as you could. They're all dead silent. There was barely any noise, and they were just putting it together, putting it together. Gave it to us like very quietly and just pointed for us to like exit, and it was one of the most fun, unique like experiences ever because they managed to not only theme the food in the area like they usually do, but they actually made like the everyone working like play into the theme, and that was just really fun for someone who really loves those just thematic integrity and stuff. I thought that was a really cool touch.
I do wonder how long that lasts because there are going to
Yeah.
be issues. There, it will arise. Some
I
people aren't always the best guests, and voices will be needed at some point, I'm sure. And I wonder when that'll just become so much that they're just like drop it, whatever.
Yeah, I hope it's not that. I hope that it's just like, okay, one person came through, manager deals with it, and like
Hmm.
we're moving on. Because also both items, actually all the items there are very like easy prep things.
Hmm.
It's mashed potatoes and baked beans, and then like a chowder and an eclair. So, which I had the chowder, it was delicious. It's a lot for the price. It's like a full bowl.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
that's
it's like
good.
the paper like cardboard bowls that we used to have. So it's like what that stew used to be in with the bone cornbread in it, but it is full. So
Ooh.
that's why I got to eat it because my friend ordered it and then was like, I literally can't finish this, and I was like, thank you. So I don't know. I think that maybe it's just easy enough that they can like kind of move on and be like, we're not backed up, so just get the fuck out of here and shut up,
Hmm.
and it's not a problem. But we'll see in October.
All right. Are we ready to
Alright.
move on to our specialty drinks a bit?
Absolutely.
Cool. So I kind of want to bring it back to one in particular because we were recently just talking about maybe some inconsistencies across items, and I know for a fact that myself, Jonathan, and Jess have tried the Shirley Black. Mike, did you get to try the Shirley Black at all?
No, I have tried. I have tried zero alcoholic
Oh,
beverages.
okay, got it. So we've all tried the Shirley Black. Jess, I'll let you go with your review first.
I really liked it. I thought it was a really well balanced alcoholic Shirley Temple, and I thought that the blueberry boba actually added something and were like a really fun flavor pop when
Hmm.
you got to it. But mine, like I said, was a well balanced Shirley Temple.
On the other hand, the one I ordered, which is the same one that Jonathan tried, you can actually go look on TikTok. We've posted it. I gag physically, and I was not playing it up for the camera at all. I did not expect to do that. It was a syrupy mess, and because it's so cherry heavy, it was literally just cough syrup.
Oh
Like it didn't
no.
just taste like cough syrup; it was thick like cough syrup too.
Oh,
It
Oh
was.
jeez.
Jonathan put down more than me. I let him have it. So Jonathan, if you want to pick it up and have anything nicer to say than my 1 of 10 rating.
I don't. Besides the fact that it was technically free because you didn't want it, so I just was like, I'm gonna finish it.
I should send y'all the picture I have of it because I've seen obviously the TikTok.
There's sober kids in Africa. I'm drinking.
That's Jonathan.
God damn.
I saw the
Uh,
TikTok y'all made, and my drink compared to your drink is like night and day.
Mm. I assume yours didn't just look like a thick red blob.
No, I'm sending it to our group chat so you guys can see it whenever it sends in this recording.
Yeah. So if yours, I could see how it could work if it was a balanced drink. That was not a balanced drink. It was just pure cherry syrup.
You could
Like
tell
that's
from the
all
video.
it was. So yeah, again, inconsistencies. Hopefully they work those out, work out those kinks across opening weekend because that appears, and hopefully by inconsistencies and fixing them, I mean that they make it the good way and not the bad way. Because sometimes they just end up staying in the bad way.
Yeah.
I did get to try another of the specialty drinks, and I know you tried a little bit of it as well, Duff. I don't know if any of you guys tried it. The Sinister Spritz. That's at the Fanta booth that was previously the Peacock Bar, that sort of location. Um, and it has me kind of not worried because I think a lot of people are into this, and I wasn't against it. But if you don't like Fanta, I'm worried that a lot of the drinks there are likely just going to taste like Fanta because that's exactly what the Sinister Spritz tasted like. It was just straight up because I drank it. I was ready to give like a detailed review, but I'm like, no, this is literally just Fanta with alcohol in it. Like that's all the flavors I could really get out of it, which wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but if you don't love soda, or Fanta or that specific soda brand or whatever, I don't think you're gonna love it. So it just all sort of depends on your tolerance with that and what you prefer for your alcoholic beverages.
I'll be a little ruder on it to be honest because I think it does the thing a cocktail cannot do, and that is have two ingredients completely battle each other for your attention. The drink is literally just like Fanta orange and straight vodka. And those two don't exactly just mesh together clearly because it did not. Like they were very two distinct flavors and that's all you got. Like that's it.
Mhm.
And it was like the vodka part of it was pre-batched into something that was orange. I don't remember what that was. And all they did is basically top it with like actual Fanta from a bottle at that point. But
Oh God.
I only tasted the vodka from that original pre-batch. I'll tell you that much.
Was it Aperol? Because it's a spritz.
Probably yeah, I believe it
So
is
it was
Aperol.
vodka and Aperol mixed with
With
Fanta.
Fanta.
Who the fuck
I
came
believe
up
so.
with that? This is also available at the bar by Nightmare Fuel because I do remember my sister saying something because she loves an Aperol spritz, and that's probably why because that's been like the biggest drink for the last like year and a half are spritzes and Aperol and Mediterranean summer drinks, and that's what this is. But
Hmm.
with Fanta, that's not what a fucking Aperol spritz is. And Aperol is like a very earthy, like kind of herbaceous flavor. To mix it with orange soda.
The Fanta too was kind of just like open Fanta that was just sort of sitting there. Like you
Oh,
could
yeah.
tell they were just, they had some, and whenever they needed to use it, they picked it up and poured it in. But it wasn't like cold or any. It was just kind of just sitting right on top of there, like in the heat, of
Mhm.
horror nights, and that was kind of gross. Just the way that is.
Sounds like
Yeah.
the universal head drink guy has been replaced by Keenan and Kel.
Oh God. I will say, Jonathan, any of the drinks that had specifically Fanta Orange in it, because I wish I knew which drink it was, but it's at the Transformers bar and it has Fanta. Maybe there was one that
Is
had
it
blue raspberry and one that had orange. And
is it the Fanta Rita?
I don't know because I know someone had the Fanta Orange and someone had the blue raspberry one. One is like a mojito and one is like a I don't fucking remember, but they
I
both
believe
were
I had the
disgusting.
mocktail version of the blue raspberry one.
Well, I
I
hope it was
believe I did.
better than
It
what
was
we
good.
got.
It was good, and I feel like mocktails is like hard to mess up because like you're just getting you're getting the non-alcoholic stuff.
Yeah.
You're just getting
But it was the issue mainly besides it not being balanced, like what we were talking about with the Shirley Temple. The sodas were just open and they were not the most popular drinks. So, like you said, Jonathan, they were just sitting out, and this was at like 5 o'clock in Stanscream on opening night.
Ah, it was hot
So,
day.
but like, how long? How long did they have been sitting out for? And they were gross and flat.
Hmm.
So the Fanta's not the move for me
uh,
personally.
hot Fanta summer.
Ugh, I did wait. Okay, I do want to talk about a positive. I guess a Coke drink. At the bars, the Jack Daniel's like cherry Coke, whatever the fuck. It's creepy cola. Sorry, that's what it's called. I
Yes,
really liked that. I thought it was strong. It had like cherry like puree in it or syrup or something. So it wasn't just like maraschino cherry juice or whatever. It had Jack Daniel's in it, but I really liked that one.
Okay, I'll give that a try. I'll give it a try. Um, I did also have the Murderita, which honestly was just pretty much a straight up margarita. A tad sweeter, obviously, than you'd get if it was hand poured. But I thought it was going to be not so great. It turned out to be all right. Like it was a fine little pre-batch
that's the
margarita.
classic one, right? That's the classic
That's the
market because
classic one without
I
Fanta.
remember there
Because
was
then
like
there's the
two different.
Fanta Rita.
Mm,
Yeah,
Yeah, the Murderita is just the kind of classic margarita.
yay, Fanta. Wanna Hanta.
Also, I haven't had it yet, but a lot of people are raving about the HHN canned cocktail this year, which apparently is basically
Oh,
just a vodka cran.
I want to try it. The
ooh,
can is really cute.
I'm
Yeah,
a
I
big
like it a
vodka
lot.
cream guy.
So yeah, people are saying it literally just tastes like a fresh vodka cran,
Oh,
but maybe a little bit more kind of crisp and bubbly.
okay. I did try two more drinks now that I'm thinking about it. I really feel like an alcoholic right now. Um, and they were both very unique for HHN. So I tried the one at the Monsters booth, like the cider one. I can't. I did not take pictures of anything, but it's like a spiked kind of a cidery drink. It was so sour, but delicious in the heat.
Hmm.
But the Insidious drink was actually like a really big highlight of the weekend for me. And I don't like licorice, but the only licorice is the candy on top of it, not anything in it. But it's like a White Claw and I want to say vodka and some berries and whatever. But it was so good, and I got so buzzed off that drink.
Hmm.
But it was delicious, so highly recommend it.
I'll give it a shot. It sounds good.
Already. Before we move on, I do want to just go back and to thank Universal for inviting us for media night because I know our media night coverage kind of blended into our food and drink. But thank you so much for inviting us. It was a great time. Awesome. Yeah.
And then I also think this is kind of a good time for us to point out we are doing a spoiler free and a spoiler review of the opening weekend and the event as a whole. And I think kind of where we're about to head is a good point to kind of start that spoiler free aspect. So if you don't want spoilers, you're good for now. We're going to get through the event spoiler free, and we'll be sure to let you know when we're going to go back and dive into deep spoilers.
Yeah. They're coming, but not quite yet. So you
Yeah.
don't have to turn off the show yet.
So let's start talking about the vibe of the event. So not the zones specifically, not the houses, just kind of our icons, the music, the lights, the vibe as a whole. What do you guys think from a non-spoiler aspect?
Who wants to go first?
I got one.
Okay, you go because I.
It's silly. Ignore my neighbor's car in the background because of course he would do this right now. For me, and I've been saying it since the lights started popping up, the vibe is bisexual lighting without any spoilers.
Hmm.
Do with
I
that
love
what
the
you.
colors too.
Yeah. Oh my
Love it.
god.
They look great.
Big 365 energy. Um, but yeah, no, I think that is the vibe, and metal is back, baby.
Hmm. And
Yes.
it's not just like a HHN30 like overly heavy thrashing metal, or almost like a it's almost like industrial, right? Like this is
Mm-hmm.
more of like a kind of blends metal and punk a little bit. It really fits the vibe of HHN a lot better for me. I do have one complaint. I think the music's not being played very loud throughout the park at all. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
really catching a lot of the park loop out of very specific sections of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do agree.
especially in
That's kind of what
citizens.
I was where I was going is like it feels like it's there, but it's barely there. I
Hmm.
want more. Like I feel like like the theme is like no, I don't know. It's like it's not all it doesn't slap you in the face like it normally does.
Hmm.
And I want that.
Yeah, I do hope they start cranking it up a bit. Like I think we've had it years where it's like too loud. 31, good example. Like it was just blaring everywhere you went. I don't want that, but I want to be able to hear it everywhere too. And it's fully tough to judge the vibe of the event after opening weekend because I'm gonna love the vibe no matter what. I'm hanging out with old friends, new friends, people I haven't seen in so long, just finally back at HHN. The vibe's gonna feel great no matter what opening weekend. So we'll see in the coming weeks if I really enjoy the vibe that they've created or not. But I will say again that the lighting packages across the park look phenomenal. They've added them to spaces they haven't used them previously. I think the use of the 33s being so many more places than typical is really cool. So like it looks really good. We'll see how it feels moving forward.
Yeah. I will say my like you guys have pointed out, my favorite thing about right now this atmosphere and vibe is the lighting. Cuz that you notice the theme that they're trying to go for with the lighting everywhere you go. It's like even when you're not looking for it, it's like, "Oh, there it is," in just a section you wouldn't expect it. Like there's even specific lighting at just like one of the exits or entrances depending on if you're leaving or coming to the event, which is just a really cool spot to put it. So the lighting itself is, I really think, phenomenal and a highlight. And as someone who didn't love the 30 loop, actually, I still think it's my least favorite park wide loop. I'm actually totally okay with this music. Like, I really am. I think it's enough where it's not going to get in your head and sort of get under your skin, like 30s did. Um, but I also think it hits the genre that a lot of people are looking for too. I think it's like a good balance between, you know, what 30 was and just making it a little more, I guess, open to people like me who aren't necessarily in to that type of music, cuz I've never like felt bad about the park loop at all, even though I do think there are some 30 songs in the loop, like one or two of them. But overall I think the park wide loop is pretty damn good this year for what they're going for.
Now, the kind of last thing to go with vibe, we do have two icons. We won't speak too much about who they are or what they are. But of course, I think we can mention as we have many times. That'd be sinister and surreal. Basically, two spectrums of fear: one visceral, one. Uh, damn, now I'm like Mike, and I can't think of a way to put it.
Cerebral.
Cerebral.
Come on, guys.
So basically, physical and then more mental, right? Like those are kind of the two spectrums they're going for. How do you think that's playing out in the park?
I think one is portrayed pretty straightforward. The other one, I think, if you didn't know what was going on, you wouldn't know.
I get that. Yeah, I don't think without knowing that's kind of what they're going for, it would really show it all that like the different approaches. When you know, it makes a lot of sense. Uh, but I don't think it's something that someone walks in blind, not knowing who they are, like what their purpose is. They wouldn't get it. They just get
I
that they're two different icons, and oh, this way's red and this way is blue.
I totally agree with that. And with yeah, I did without getting too spoilery. Yeah, I agree with
Hmm.
your statement.
I really like the idea of them though, and I do think there are sections that we will talk about that particularly when we get to their zones that have been listed on the official website obviously that they really work and they there's cool things that happen with them that are really really fun and it's hard to not say anything else without spoiling, but I do think, specifically in specific times and sections of the park, the icons really do shine and they make themselves known that they are like, the heads of this event. It isn't like a surprise or anything like that. And I think that is really fun and really cool and a really great usage of them once we get into that specific discussion.
Hmm.
Mhm. I do think, again, without getting too specific, that they are giving us exactly what they said they were going to give us when you think about the fact that they are physical and of the mind. And I think that if you want to like sit in a scare zone and watch, you're gonna really find things you like about both. I have not had a chance to do that, but I've waited like 5-10 minutes in each one. But we'll see. That's all I can say right now.
And then I think there's one last thing we can discuss before getting into houses and zones, and that would be the tribute store. So obviously, it's tough to really talk about that without spoilers of it. Um, how do you feel it stacks up to past tribute stores? I think that's a good way to frame it for the spoiler-free part.
Oh. Uh,
Not
Ooh.
great, Steve.
I, I I think it is very focused on store
Mm,
and maybe not so much tribute. There are tributes in there, and I think that what it does is scenically it's great. It's always going to be great. The team is always going to do a great job. And to me, it gives Seeds of Extinction, Descendants of
mm,
Destruction kind of
hmm.
lies between the two in the Venn diagram.
Yeah,
Mm.
And I love both of them, like both of those houses. So I like it. But again, I think it focuses more on store.
yeah. I do think that is cool that they really put an emphasis on making the store cohesive and immersive throughout. I think that's a lot of fun and is something they should always kind of go for. However, I do agree they've kind of, I don't want to say lost, but aren't fully on track with what the tribute store has been and kind of what makes it a special store. At the end of the day, it is a store, right? So like it can only go so far, but it had a formula that worked, sometimes better than others. And I feel like maybe they strayed a bit too far. While I like the general direction they went, I think it just kind of misses the tribute store mark a bit.
Yeah. And another thing I can say without spoilers is that I only went to this store once. I don't have like too much to say, but there was something noticed, especially in the first room, that I do think is a problem, and that is flow. I think the first room especially, like my dad went in and was like talking about it. He's like, you could move in there. Like it's so tight. There's so many areas that it's you have to like push around people and that especially in that first room. It just immediately made him want to turn around and not go in. And especially for your first room of the store, if it's going to be super tight, especially during the event, there's going to be a lot of people going in it. It's always the busiest time for the tribute store when the event is happening. And it's busy regardless, but when things are laid out so tightly, even though it is themed, and I get why it is for sure, it's not the best retail experience for the guests. And as my dad, who's someone who doesn't really care that much about the theming or whatever, he just wants to buy the stuff and move out, like a lot of guests. Um, it was a big thing that bugged him. And while I went during a non-busy time, while I didn't experience this, um, I can completely see how that first room can become a bottleneck.
Yeah, I don't. I've only actually gone when it's been pretty slow in there, but I could definitely see specifically the first room being a very big pain in the ass if it's busy.
Yeah, I guess this is my thoughts. I agree with basically everything you said. I think there are a few moments that are fun. I think, but overall, I think this one it misses for me. This compared to some of the others that we've got. I feel like they were getting better every year, and then this one is a little bit of a step backwards for me.
And it's weird because like it's not like it has less effects, or less, wow moments. It's just I don't know. I think it's just the layout, the story they're trying to tell.
Yeah. I I think it is the layout, and I think it's also, and I want to say they did this maybe because they were trying to spread the people around the store, but I feel like instead of having like a traditional store where we have like a kind of a square like shopping shelf where there's multiple things, we have a couple of those, but really things are kind of spread out in each room, and you have like one shirt in that corner, you have the Mel's hat over there and the Mel's apron pin over there, and like everything is like near itself, but it's not all together like in the same collection. It's in the same room. And I feel like that is really fucking with the flow because you can't just like kind of browse. You have to like intentionally be like, all right, that's the photo op side. This is the shopping side. And then you're kind of getting lost looking for the merch if you're just in there to buy like a house shirt. If you're just like a general person who goes to the event, maybe you don't know that it's available at the front. Like you think that this is the HHN like store, So for me, it's going to be a huge problem because people can't just directly go into the first room and say, "Oh my God, there's the whole house shirt collection. There's like the punk collection. It's there, but it's all kind of spread out." That's my
Yeah.
main gripe.
And I think going back to your original comments about it, a great takeaway for me is that they really didn't put the tribute in tribute store this year.
Yeah.
Immersive store, yes. Tribute store, some places, I guess.
Yeah. We'll eventually we'll talk about when the spoil. I guess not, but like when you look at the store, there is a tribute in there.
There is.
There's
Yep,
tributes, sure.
tribute.
All right. Well, with
Yeah.
that, any last thoughts about
No.
Tribute Store?
No.
Ready to
No.
move on? Okay. Let's hop into the fun stuff. The meat and potatoes. Well, take out the potatoes, maybe just the meat with non-spoiler section. Let's talk about first the zones. We don't have to actually necessarily go into every single zone individually. I feel like they should all at least get a mention. But the more important thing is, how do we feel overall about these zones? And then just kind of go from there. Anyone want to kick us off?
I don't think I should go first because I have strong feelings.
I can go first then, Mike. I can be positive. I think that there are really high highs, and that they finally learned how to fucking light a Hollywood zone. That is my main takeaway. That is my main positive. Without getting into like big spoilers, I think that they finally have kind of found their vibe on scare zone lighting, while it's still being dark and having places to hide, but also showcasing the amazing work that they do on like these characters and the sets and everything. There are also very low lows in these zones. And I don't even know if one of these could be considered a zone.
It can't be. It can't be. Sorry, I was holding.
No, I know, Mike. I knew.
There
I
are
knew I
4
was going to
zones.
open.
There are 4 zones.
I opened the floodgates.
There are 4 zones.
There are 4 zones and
Chainsaws. Oh, I can't spoil.
oh,
Oh, that's
I mean,
that's
that's
fine. That's
HHN's
fine.
always gonna have
Yeah,
there's always
that's
chainsaws.
fine.
chainsaws.
Yeah.
But yeah, there
You
are
can mention the zone. It's fine. That's not necessarily a spoiler to say you don't like it. That's non-spoiler.
yeah,
You just
but
don't tell them why.
there are low lows. There
Yeah.
are very low.
The low that they're talking about is Duality of Fear, by the way.
Yeah.
Everyone, just so you know.
I was not wrong in my scare zone hype list.
No,
I
no, you
will
were not.
just
That's for
point
sure.
that out.
You were definitely spot on with that one.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you have to go back to maybe Booville
Oh
to
God, Mike.
get a worse scare zone than Duality.
Dang.
Night Maze, maybe.
I think Night Maze is better because at
Oh.
least they
Really?
tried something.
Okay, they
At
did
least it
try.
was an actually.
I have
There were
heard.
characters in there. There was a theme. There was but there was a. It tried to be a maze. It didn't work, but it was something that they tried to do.
I will say the presence of specific characters probably makes it just elevated a tad above Night Maze, but like Night Maze is like my least favorite zone of all time, so that's not saying much.
I've heard this zone brought up so much this weekend, just like from people I don't know in line.
Comparing it to
Yeah.
Duality of Fear.
Night Maze is like something that is. I have not heard Booville though, Mike. I think you've won. I think you have won with the niche scare zone comparison. But they're just random people in line, like, people with like HHN 2002 shirts on who are like, yeah, fucking like Night Maze up in the front. And I'm like, no,
I
shit.
can't take credit for Booville. I believe Alex, our listener Alex, who I was at Premium Screen Night with, was the one who said maybe Booville.
I mean, that's a
That's
great
funny.
comparison because neither is a real scare zone.
Yeah.
Night Maze, for all its flaws, I will say was definitely a scare zone. At the very
Yeah.
least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can't get into spoilers, but I do have something I want to say when we get to spoilers about this zone.
We will talk a lot about it,
We
I'm
can
sure.
get there soon
Thank
because
God.
I think if we were playing a drinking game for a drink when we say without spoiling anything,
I know.
people would have to get their stomach pumped.
We're terrible.
I will add on that I do believe there is a very good high for me that's Torture Fair and the same low as you. I think everything okay. Enter the Blumhouse, kind of what I thought it would be. That's about it. That's all I need to say about it. Don't need to bring that up again. Everything between that's kind of in the middle there, there's room to grow, but overall, I am not super impressed by the zone lineup. There's just one big standout in Torture Fair for me. And going back to my hype list, it's kind of what I want it to be for the most part, and what I was expecting out of it. So, yeah, I'm excited about one, really down on another, and everything else is kind of like, we'll see.
Yeah, I have to say that for me personally, and I know a lot of people are different. I know a lot of people like Torture Fair. I personally think every zone in 32 was better, with maybe Swamp of the Dead being the exception. I don't know. I think maybe Jungle is on the same level as Swamp of the Undead, but every zone in 32, for me personally, who's someone who really liked FAM 69, was better than 33. It just everything clicked better for me in 32 than 33.
Even Zodiac above Demon Queens from what you've seen so far?
Yes.
Okay.
I without spoiling it.
Yeah.
Yes, I think Zodiac had a very had a theme and a well executed theme that you very quickly you can just be like, oh, these are Zodiacs. You can, and then you can kind of get what's going on. I don't know if that's necessarily the case in Demon Queens.
Yeah.
I do get that. I do think as a casual fan, or not a casual fan, just a casual person who goes to the event, if you, once again, like we were sort of discussing this, if you didn't know about the icons, if you didn't know about pain and psychological torment and everything, and you walked into Demon Queens and you weren't there at a specific time of day, you might be like, this is cool, but I don't get it, but it's cool. So I completely understand where you're going from, Mike, because I think Zodiac technically was easier to digest to the casual audience compared to this, where if you don't know, and you aren't in the know, it might be a bit more confusing about what it's trying to do. But I will say, um, I have opinions on all of these zones, but the only one I really want to get into in the spoiler free section is what Duff alluded to too, which was Torture Fair. I am on the same page where I really, 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 really like it. We're obviously in the first week. We're not even going to rank the zones yet because we're so early. But I do think this does have the potential to be one of my favorite zones of all time just because of the different things it does and the things that I was hoping for and crossing my finger for. It accomplishes that and then some throughout the various I don't want to give it too spoilers, but just throughout the various aspects of the zone. I think they hit everything really, really well and do almost everything with the torture fair concept that they possibly could shoved into one scare zone. It's one of the rare times where a New York zone feels like there's multiple things going on throughout the entire zone instead of just in specific sections. You feel like the whole area is a torture fair. You're walking through it. This is a real place, and it's like a fair. There's hundreds of things going on around you at once, and it never stops. The chaos never ceases, and it's really, really, really cool. So I can't wait to get more into that in the spoilers. But I think that is not only a highlight of this year. I think a highlight of many, many years, maybe all the years I've been going so far, which isn't a lot, but still.
You know, it's funny. On our first ever episode of HHN365 in 2019, one of the comments was, "Man, 29's kind of a down year for scare zones. I would kill to have a scare zone year like
Right.
29 since like it's
Duff.
old, like nothing has been as good as 29 since." And like
You're
29 at the time was like, "Oh man, this is kind of a bummer for scare zones." And now look at us. Like,
Yeah.
"Oh, please give me 29."
You want to talk
Yeah.
about if I could go back to 29 zones? My favorite zone of all time.
I mean, I love one of them.
Yeah.
But still,
Yeah.
overall, it was a down year. And now it's just like,
Yeah.
we can't even reach those heights anymore, like across the board.
I love a lot of scare zones in 29.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, maybe you're just like me and have only seen a couple great zones. And that's it. And Jonathan, I guess. So
Yeah,
like you did see clowns. So
I did. Yeah.
you didn't see Trick or Treat though. I don't know if we're ever gonna have like that kind of magic
I mean-
again. I feel like we're very much in a downswing still.
Twisted Tradition was pretty great too.
Oh, I
so.
forgot about Twisted Tradition. But again, pumpkins in the trees. That's the thing. We haven't brought the pumpkins back.
That's all. That's
Once
all.
they
think
come
that's
back, everything's fixed.
I think so. Honestly, I think that the nature will be healing. We won't have to worry about corn anymore. Yeah, no. I do love that swamp was only brought up like one time in this whole conversation.
I
I
will
like Swamp.
say
I would say
Yeah.
that's
It's-
the one I like.
it's forgettable.
Because in my opinion, it's too similar to Jungle for like casual people who maybe came last year, or like even us with brain fog. I keep forgetting. I'm like, is it Jungle? Which one was last year? Which one's this year? Like in hindsight now, not being at the
They
event
are-
in 2 days.
They're quite similar.
That is a zone I really don't think I could really talk about much without getting into the spoilers
Mhm.
of why it's not doing what I hoped it would.
That's fair. Well, we can move on then, I guess, from zones unless somebody has something else.
No. Did anyone partaken in Nightmare Fuel yet? 'Cause I have not.
Yes, I did. And I
Oh.
was lucky enough to be on an RIP tour, so I got the reserved seating. So I got about the best experience you can out of that. I will say, I don't know if it's because I really just wanted a new Nightmare Fuel and that we got it, but I think it's my favorite Nightmare Fuel. It
Oh.
fully breaks the mold. Obviously, they're going to do a similar tricks, but the story is completely different. I really like the way they end it, and I think it's just a breath of fresh air to see new things happening on that stage, like brand new. So, yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'll definitely be back several more times this season to check it out. It's as hot as ever. Like when I say I was sweaty, I mean it looked like I just like came out of the dip of a pool. Like, you know, I needed a towel. Like, it was bad, of course, like it always is. But yeah, so you aren't really going to lose much fire. It's still very present. All right, so with that, let's get into the houses. Again, don't necessarily need to break down every single house in the spoiler free part, but how do we feel overall about these houses and kind of any of the ones that stand out, whether that's good or bad, to be honest?
Okay,
Anyone?
so
Oh, here we
no,
go. Oh,
I
excitement.
just want to go just really quickly and just say that for for me, as much as I didn't necessarily care for the zones, the opposite is the true truth for the houses. I think this is a really solid, generally, year for the houses. I think I was pretty scared about this lineup. They weren't necessarily excited me going in, and I was pleasantly surprised when it comes. So for all the negativity I had with the zones, it's almost opposite for the houses.
Hmm. Well, since you're already going, what do you any like standouts that you want to mention?
I think they're all generally solid. I think the standouts. I think obviously Insidious. I think blew me away. I had it in number 10. It's not my number 10 anymore for sure. That one, fantastic. Without getting in the spoilers, very scary. That's all quite scary. Um, I think Goblin's Feast was another one that I wasn't totally sold on. I think it works for what it is. I think it works. I don't think it's necessarily my favorite. I need some more runs. It was. I will say it was probably close to my favorite on Premium Scream, but it has already started to drop. Um, and Sweets. Those are kind of my standouts right now.
Okay, that's fair. I will say I do agree that there is a pretty solid level across the board with houses. Like I don't think there's any just straight out bad houses. I don't think there's a huge dip in levels between houses. But I also don't think there's really like S tier houses at all for me. Like there's some standouts for sure, uh, but it's kind of a tier lower than you hope to have as your top houses so far. That could change. We'll see. I will say what I do think is fun is that when you kind of have houses either kind of all at a pretty good level, or even sometimes if they're all a bit lower than that, but there's nothing too crazy between them. The rankings are so wildly different across the board, whether it's talking with you guys, other podcasters, listeners, friends, whatever it may be. Like, I could have Insidious at one, and someone else could be like, "That was the worst thing I've ever done." That's a bad example because everyone seems to love Insidious, except someone. Um, but yeah, like it's just so spread out of individual rankings. Um, so it makes the season a lot more fun and a lot more fun to discuss because of that, at the very least. Like for me, I really have a top three tier. Like that's my top tier. Uh, Insidious, Sweets, and Slaughter Cinema are kind of all like, yeah, these could move around for sure. And that's not necessarily my order I have them in, but I got a tier there. But then I also have a middle tier from like 4 to 8, like a huge tier that could all be interchanged. And then 9, 10 are kind of on their own. But like, I don't think we have a Chucky, you know? Um, I think even the bottom is still a pretty solid house overall.
You kind of took like all the words out of my brain, you and Mike. So
Oh, you're welcome. I was just trying to save your voice a little bit.
yeah, no, thank you. I'm doing pretty good. I'm not like Jonathan right now. Thank you.
I'm
I
not as bad as last year.
No, you're not. I will say that. I could rock out like a Murdy tweets right now and not die, but
Oh, that's good. Well, we don't have one, so don't,
I know.
you
I'm
know.
sorry. Uh, but I agree. Like it's kind of funny, and I kind of live for it because for me, it kind of reminds me of like a. I don't even want to say like 2019, but maybe like 2017, 2018, where like people were kind of conflicted. There was Scarecrow, obviously, for 2017 and 2018 at Poltergeist, but there were also other houses, and like people had really strong feelings. And I think that that's kind of what makes HHN really fun. But I think in the last couple of years, maybe it was kind of boring because everyone kind of had a consensus on a lot of things. So we're back to fighting in the streets, and I'm here for it. especially because a lot of us are in standby now. So like, bring it. Let's go. I'll see you in standby, bitch.
Oh my god.
I'm kidding. Well, I do
I know.
also have like a top 3, I guess I could say, because we're doing spoiler free. So, Slaughter, Monstrous, and Sweets. Not in that order, but those 3 were killing it.
Yeah, this year is so interesting with rankings, like everyone has been saying, because there are things. I even think there are surprises among everyone's own individual rankings, like compared to hype. Because, like Mike alluded to, Insidious was 10 for him, and it's not anymore. I'm sure it's a lot higher up. And I think a lot of surprises come from some of the execution of the IPs. Because I know for a lot of people, the IPs generally were at the bottom of most hype lists. Some of the execution of originals, some that were high ended up a lot lower. Some that were low ended up a lot higher. It's usually, I'm not going to say always, but there is a point where sometimes hype lists are pretty darn similar to what the ranking is. I'd say this year that's almost not the case at all, because I've seen so many switches. I don't think I made like a comparison between my hype and my rankings, but I know like there'd be like major, either like, going all the way up the hype list or all the way down. And it's really interesting year. But I agree, there are no actual bad houses. I could not say the same last year. Chucky was not good. Could not say the same in 31. Hellblock was not good. This is the first year in a couple of years that it's like, even my 10 that I don't love, obviously it's 10, I do not consider poor. Like, I don't consider like a house that I don't want to do again after a couple runs. Like, it's still a house I want to do every night if I could. And that is something I love out of a year. And for me, I do think there are some S's for me, but I've also been going less years, so that's probably takes that into account. But yeah, I'm really happy about the house lineup this year, and I think it's the thing that is I'm most excited to experience throughout the rest of the season, to see how they change and how they adapt and how they grow. Because right now, I think they're really pretty solid already, and we're only in opening weekend.
Cool.
Well, anything else before we move on to our spoiler review that maybe you want to tell those listeners who are thinking about hopping off in a second here?
Have fun at the event whenever you do go. Don't worry about what we think or what anyone else online thinks. Enjoy it.
That is true. That is true. I mentioned what my kind of top 3 are, and you might not like them all, and some that I don't like, which if you hang around, you'll see soon, might be your favorite, because there are a lot of people's favorites. Again, this is a year where you can really just kind of enjoy without letting others people's opinions get to you, because everyone has different opinions this year. So enjoy what you enjoy and have fun.
All right, so let's get on into let's spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Let's get the alert out there. If you don't want to be spoiled, I would say now is the time to put a bookmark in this podcast and come back after you have gone full and you are ready to get spoiled, because it is going to be spoilerific from here on out.
Oh yeah, it is. And let's hop back to something that we tried to talk about, but it's kind of tough to talk about without spoilers. In the tribute store.
Let's do it.
Obviously, none of us seem too excited, but let's find out why exactly that is. Does anyone have like really strong thoughts they want to get out there?
Why is it focused on a bat?
Not just
Like-
any bat, Batilda.
That's so. Why is she called Batilda? I'm sorry. No, that immediately like ruins it for me. Like,
It's Patricia to me.
I know.
Oh my god, are you guys dead naming her?
She will always be Patricia.
Oh my god,
I don't care about that much, because
Yeah.
she's been around for a long time and people only really got on the Patricia train just last year. So, like, if Universal wants to give them their own name, guess what? It's Batilda. I don't mind. That's fine. Does not bother me one bit.
I feel like it would be kind of. I know it's not the level of Lil Boo, but as if they tried to like bring Lil Boo back and call him like
little
I don't
pumpkin
know.
or
Yeah.
little bitch boy, like
Okay, that'd be better. That'd be
little
better.
bitch boy.
I think
You're
that's what's
welcome.
actually on the tags now when you buy his merch. It says little bitch boy.
Little bitch boy.
I don't.
Um,
But Lil Boo was like the moment that he became something was Universal literally saying, like, he's called Lil Boo. Like his naming was important. Patricia was just kind of like people randomly were like, oh, Patricia, yeah.
It was fun though. It was a fun joke. Like I don't know.
Oh,
I,
I don't know. Batilda works the same to me. I mean, I get. Listen, I know some people don't like it. Personally, I could care less. Patricia, Batilda.
whatever.
It's a bat that's been reused 3 times in Scare Zones now.
right.
It doesn't matter. I will say one positive thing I can say besides it's the Seeds Descendants hybrid. I love the checkout line and how it's like themed. I just think it's really
I do like the
silly.
checkout line. I think that
It's
room in
cool.
particular is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like it's just cool and like yeah, it's really basic. It's very it's giving kind of like spirit party section. Like here's your post-apocalyptic party decorations. But we do have like, a subway car that's obviously used from Descendants, like the front of it at least. And there are some fun things in there. I like the big HHN photo op with the big neon letters. That's
Hmm.
really fun.
Hmm.
I just kind of wish it was more like that. That's kind of what I expect, and more Easter eggs and not just like the Slaughter Cinema snack bar sign. And that's really it. There was like a couple more, but I expected something like this to be crawling in Easter eggs, and we're really not.
Yeah, a lot of the Easter eggs were like specific to the tribute store. Like
Hmm.
no,
Mhm.
to tribute stores. Sorry,
Yeah.
like in the past that aren't necessarily HHN ones. Earl and the Gerg joke and the whatever, like a lot of those, and that they always have them, but it felt like they were more of a focus this time around compared to like actual HHN stuff, which was kind of the fear when we were getting the put your faces in on the products or whatever, when they were mostly, not HHN references. I was like, oh, where are we gonna go with this? And it's kind of like the whole store is kind of like that in a way, which is a strange choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough for me because it's definitely not like my favorite tribute store by any means. But I like what they did. Again, going back to it is immersive and it's cohesive throughout.
Mhm.
I like how much of like a kind of story it tells, going all the way back. All the way back, I say, like a month ago, to when they started adding those details to Sahara Traders. Um, but it's like you said, there's more just cool stuff than cool Easter eggs that make it the tribute store. Yeah, there's a lot of HHN in it, but it's like HHN stuff that you just threw up now rather than truly referencing HHN. And the big
Mm.
thing you're referencing to HHN is one minor character from HHN lore. And that's kind of
Who
it.
Boris?
No, Batilda.
Batilda.
Well, there's like there's Boris Easter eggs
Oh, there are, yeah.
Yeah.
There are Easter eggs throughout, but it's not like they're just only like small Easter eggs and not a big part of the tribute store like
Yeah.
they typically are.
right.
Yeah. I do agree though that like it's a very impressive immersive space. It is. I really like it. I like the vibe. I just I guess I just expect more, and this is not a negative comment. I just have come to expect some kind of IP presence in the store. And I know we always haven't had that, but we did before. And like this one just is like fully immersive, and that's great. I think that that's a big improvement from some of the ones before where you would walk in and it was like, "Oh, Beetlejuice room. Oh, I can't Icons room. I couldn't think of the other rooms." But I, it's just I don't know how much I'm going to go into this. Let's be real. And also, it is a nightmare, like Jonathan said, logistically.
It did
Mm.
have an Easter egg of the one of the things that scared me about the original Ghostbusters house, and that was the New York Public Library sign that was in like the facade for the original house. And I think I saw it and I started like getting shivers, like just remembering that. So I did spot that Easter egg, which was kind of funny. But yeah, it's like it's really immersive. It does what it wants to do very well, and once again, you're not going to get those immersive spaces anywhere else. Like you're not. Like this is an incredibly, immersive, getting you into that world that they're creating. But I don't know. It's fine. It's a fine tribute store. It sort of feels like No, because even 30s was like still like had rooms based on like had icons and stuff too. So like I don't know. It's fine. It's all right.
Yeah, I like that they tried something. I don't think everything is going to when you try something this kind of like out there. Not every time it's going to work, and I think that's kind of what we got here. But I would rather them try stuff like this than just get like a theme, like go back to the era where we just got an IP room. Like each room is just a different IP. I like I do like that we got like an immersive story, and I like that I hope that the fact that this one isn't necessarily so loved, we don't immediately go back to, all right, we're gonna build a Quiet Place room, and we're gonna build a Ghostbusters room, and we're gonna build an Insidious room
Mhm.
from now on, because fuck y'all. Like I hope it doesn't go back to that.
I really think there's probably legal reasons why they don't do that. Because like if they could have with the Ghostbusters property this year, they would have. Like they would have done that. I imagine how well that would have played off to everyone going to the event. It did play off really well in 29. I just think ever since the fiasco with the tribute store with Light and IPs getting pulled and stuff and whatever, they just decided it's probably easier to not do that and to just make them all original. And I don't necessarily think that's going to change based on the reception of this one or any tribute store going forward. I think this is just a new normal.
All right. Well, anything about the tribute store before we move on?
No.
All right. Cool. So I think we can kind of tie everything else that we talked about in vibe and icons into the houses and zones themselves. So we should probably just move right on to the zones um, this time. Since we aren't going to rank them, we'll just go through each zone and say how we feel. Spoiler thoughts on these zones. And I guess we could start with the low point and
Say it.
discuss duality of fear.
Boo.
Where's the zone? I'm doing
No.
the meme where he's like, you're trying to like, where is it?
Boo. It's a set of fucking trusses.
Yeah, they put their chainsaw horde under a truss. That's about
Yeah,
it.
No,
Um,
they can go from the truss to the minion sign, Duff.
I'm sorry.
yeah, and
Yes.
Ooh.
I didn't even see the chainsaw horde even under the trusses. They for when the couple of times I went through, like the chainsaw horde is all just kind of like in a very small area, just kind of like just kind of right in front of like the bathrooms or whatever.
Hmm.
That it like it seemed like the truss actual under the trusses when I went through there was barely anyone at all.
Well, it's also a very small cast, so at all times it feels like there's barely anyone at all. To be honest, it's. I'd say there's not much to spoil because there's just not much there.
No,
Sinister and Surreal are there. They will walk
sometimes.
around, talk a little shit, maybe,
Not
stuff like
often.
that.
Not
Yeah,
that I
but
saw. Every once in
not
a while
all
they'll
the
pop
time.
in. Yeah.
I think that from what I've gathered, I think they start their sets in that zone and then eventually they mosey
Go
their way
the
over.
way over to their.
There's some kind of rotation that goes around for sure because they are in two places, but not all the time.
Mm,
Yeah.
I don't know. I also have an issue with the costuming in this zone because all they did was they reused the fabric from Zodiac on Surreal's minions, and then they made these like meat flap. I've been calling them that since Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday. Meat flap fucking outfits out of whatever Sinister's dress is made out of, and it looks good on Sinister. It does not look good on these
On
like
the
meat
boys.
flap.
Yeah.
It's not even. It's just that like they made them like these like tube tops,
Yeah, you're right.
meat
You totally,
flap
and they
tube
give them
tops.
like a weird meat backpack,
Yeah.
like
And then a chainsaw and like a weird fucking like almost it's almost like
a dream catcher.
what's Mick Foley's character with mask? Oh my god, what's his name? It's almost giving that the masks that are
Oh,
also on them.
mankind.
Mankind, yes, thank you. It's almost giving mankind meat flap chainsaw.
Yeah,
That is the
I
best
definitely
spoiler
can see that.
I can
But
get.
with like a meat dream catcher on the back of
Yes.
yeah.
And then you have the Zodiac costume in their shiny, like jewel tone fabrics, and they're just walking around with like metal plates on their face.
Yeah, it's not for me.
No,
Is it for anyone? I mean,
no,
listen,
and
I'm sure there's some people who are going to connect with it for some reason. People find reasons to do that all the time. But like for me, this is absolutely outside of the joke of not calling it a scare zone, absolutely one of the worst scare zones ever.
It
yeah,
it shouldn't be lit. Like it honestly feels like Universal's lying to people because this isn't a scare zone. Like I can't call it a scare zone. Like it feels wrong because it is, but it's not. It's there's no props. It's just the same, trust structure we've seen the past couple events. It's not even like it's a new thing that just appeared this year. Um, the only thing that kind of makes it a zone is that sometimes the icons are there, and that's cool. But I mean, if that's all it's gonna be, because the chainsaw horde does not count. It does not, like just say there's 4 scare zones. It feels like you're lying to the guests
I
because
feel like the purpose of the scare zone on the map or in like in the nomenclature and this is to it's a way to get the like the theme of the year out there. Like the duality, like the duality of fear. Like it's like a it's the only way like they needed to be a little bit more clever way to like do it, but that is kind of the only purpose it serves,
yeah,
in my opinion, is just to get the theme out there to like the regular guest who doesn't follow this. So if they look at a map and they'd be like, "All right, what scare zone did we walk through? Oh, we're getting the theme." And it doesn't. It's not translated at all in the actual zone. But if they actually take a look at like the nomenclature, they do get a little bit of what the theme is because of what this zone is. The one word, one sentence blurb about this zone.
yeah.
yeah,
It,
that
it,
that's literally
yeah.
it.
It's that, and like I will say again, back to lighting. It's impressive because they've lit under the trusses like half and half, pink and blue. I think that looks really cool when Sinister and Surreal are there. I think when they're not there, it's just kind of bisexual lighting, like I said earlier. Okay, that's it. We can move on unless Duff has something really passionate to say about it.
Uh, mm, it's bad. That's all.
Do you think we're? Let's look to the future. If if they're not ever going to put a scare zone in the Minion Street anymore because that's kind of what that is anymore. Do you do you think this is what we're stuck with for the forever? Or do you think they're going to be able to grow from here? Because I feel like Oddfellow, at least when you have the carriage and stuff, it was still pretty bare, but they at least were able to do something. Are we gonna? How do we move forward from here
I
to
mean,
make this work?
at least bring it back to Oddfellow, like that style. Put several props out. A stage is pretty nice. Stuff like that, and it's gonna work a lot better than this. It might not ever be Zone of the Year or anything, but like you gotta have something more. You have to. And after this
Yeah,
reception, I don't think they can do this
I
again.
feel like if they had given Sinister and Surreal, they're each little tiny little stage,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere like on opposite sides of the street or something, um, they could have made this work.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
Well, anyone else? Last second, because I would like to get the fuck out of here.
please.
All right, cool. So let's move on to something I'm a lot more excited to talk about with Torture Fair. Of
oh, we've
course,
chosen Sinister's route.
the
Shocking.
only way to
Yeah,
go. Run as far away from Duality of Fear as you can. Demon Queens is too close.
yeah.
They can sense it.
Of course, was number one on my hype list. It's number one. I know we aren't doing rankings, but it's my number one right now as well. I feel like it's got the most going on. It feels like the scare actors have really already kind of figured it out and are working with the zone well, which I feel like hasn't really happened elsewhere yet. The use of the stage, we've been begging for it to be used better like it has in the past, and they do so many things on it now. Sinister's up there, the King and Queen are up there, the guy who kills for
Executioners.
executioners up there, with actual like props for those torture devices and murder devices in one instance with the Iron Maiden. Um, yeah, I think there's just so much going on just on that stage alone that when you get to the other stages, it's almost like overwhelming. It's just crazy. There's actually so much to take in and enjoy, and I feel like New York zones, it's kind of just been like too reliant on all the scare actors on the ground in recent years. And it's like you have these little stages, but they're just props at the end of the day. Now the stages are actually being utilized as tools for the scare actors to really get all they can out of this zone. I think they nailed the vibe, whether that's the lighting, whether that's the music, the character design. It just all really works for me. Like already, the first time I spent any time in here, I was like, "Damn, yeah, this is what I wanted," and it's working really well.
It's so fucking good. It's so fucking good. We haven't had, or I have personally haven't had that much time in it, but the time I have had in it, like, was breathtaking. It solves a huge complaint I have with a lot of New York zones, and that it's always filled with just a bunch of victims that like just go, help me, whatever. These victims all have like are in torture devices, and it looks so cool. It elevates them way more from just being like, help me. It's like, oh my god, they're actually like in a saw trap right now, walking around. It's really unique, really fun, and already makes the ground experience so much better. I've seen so many different costumes, so many different characters. It feels like every actor has gotten into their role and it makes their character their own, which really, really helps. Like Duff was saying, not only the main stage, but the individual stages are done incredibly well and have lots of interaction and talking. The actors can talk to you and respond to you, which is something that Zone needed really, really badly. And they not only did it for the front, the main stage, the little stages, they can talk to you too, or at least the one we've experienced, which was incredibly cool. And all the stages have effects and they move and they're kinetic. It's absolutely incredible. What they did with the atmosphere, the lighting, the effects, stages, everything. Um, they not only pulled this concept off, I really think they blew it out of the water. And I've only got to spend a little bit of time in it, so that's really saying something. I think they did a fantastic job here. And I think it's only going to get better. And I cannot wait to just sit in here and really take it all in because I think it's an absolutely phenomenal zone.
Jonathan, I can also confirm for you that the torture device booth is probably the most interactive of them. So not only do they interact, but like you actually will go up and like fully just chat with them.
That's incredible. I love
Mhm.
that. I only knew the brazen bull one, the one that the guy that talked to us. So that's even better. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
I also really like the zone. I feel like I spent a little bit more time in here than you guys probably did, just because I was wandering. Because I love medieval, I love the Renaissance, but I also just was trying to avoid long house lines, so I was just in torture fair for like a couple hours across the weekend. I think that it's great. I think that they're going to get even better. I love that everything gets moved out into the streets. That was a big concern I was having when everything kind of popped up and we weren't really sure. But I think that where they put everything makes it feel kind of like you're dodging things in the best way possible, but there's also enough space. It's not like a San Fran zone of the past, or even like a New York zone of the past with like Suites. I felt like Suites was really hard to navigate with the floats in the middle. So I feel like they found a good balance for when we get really crowded in like October. I think Torture Fair is still going to be an enjoyable experience, like for everyone. I do think that on the busier side of like Sunday, it felt a little light on the actors. So I would like to see even more. But that was just because Sunday was a fucking shit show in the streets. So I'm curious to see. I know that they're still obviously casting people, but I would like to see more people in this one, more people in all the zones, but specifically this one because I think more victims, more blood. They're already killing it. I just want to see more.
Yeah, I also want to see more on this one before I like truly put in my rankings, but I have to admit that I was very, very, very excited for this one, and the both times that I tried to experience this, one was at Premium Scream Night, and it was just like not very busy. And I think because there wasn't a lot of people actually in the streets, it made it feel pretty barren. Like, and it made the fact that they just kind of have these stages kind of off to the side and then big open areas where they just kind of have let these other characters roam. It made it feel pretty empty when you don't actually have people in there, compared to the other years where you have a few props kind of down in the middle of the street. It gives it a little bit more life. It felt pretty empty on Premium Scream Night. And then the other time I experienced it, it was so packed that I could barely move in there, where I just kind of went the other way. So I admittedly did not spend a lot of time in here, but after Premium Scream, when I first experienced, I didn't necessarily care for it. I will say that the sound design here, that they're trying something to go from like the tin flute music, like the Renaissance music, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through it cuts to like the heavy metal version of that same song or whatever they're trying to do there. I think they should have just stuck with like the heavy metal, because like when it's just the flute music, like if you're not actually in the zone, you're like, what the fuck is this weird music? Like it doesn't, to me, like the people I was with, they kept saying like, oh, is this like the like this the Last of Us Q line music? Like it felt like that similar, that like that just kind of like lull you to sleep type of music. um and when you were in the zone, it wasn't quite much better. Now when you get to the heavy metal thing, I do think that actually kind of adds more life to it. But I want to experience this more because I really want to like it. I really do. I had it in my number one, and it was a high number one. And I do think maybe by the end, just based on how much you guys like it, and I think we have similar tastes for the most part, I think I will eventually like it. But I thought it was much more flawed zone than you guys, to be honest with you. But I have I both times I was in there, the flaws potentially could have been with the time I was in there and not with the actual zone. I do like the mic'd up Sinister, where she gets to roam and like interact with you. That is cool. I did like that.
Oh, I do hope it starts to click more for you because I want you to enjoy it as much as I have been. 'Cause it's great to have a scare zone to feel like that about again.
Yeah. I don't quite have that yet. But I did have that last year with Vamp 69s, and
That's
I
true.
know a lot of people didn't have that last year. So you can't like everything, and not everything is for everyone. And I personally didn't necessarily love this one, um, but maybe I will eventually.
Speaking of not liking everything, let's move on to Enter the Blumhouse.
Uh,
Thank you. Um, yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to really enjoy this zone, and guess what? I didn't really enjoy this zone. By default, it's way better than Duality of Fear. I'll give it that. It has a pretty fleshed out cast, sort of. It does feel kind of empty in there sometimes. Uh, the way they're on stages and it's less going on the ground, but it feels like there's actually characters kind of filling the zone. It's well lit, some nice lighting packages. Otherwise, I mean, it's Blumhouse characters just walking around or actually standing on stages more than anything. So, if you like really enjoy those characters, or if you enjoy kind of the more photo op type zones, I'm sure it's a great time. I knew it wouldn't be for me, and it's not for me.
yeah, I completely agree. It is what I kind of was fearing, and that it's a corporate zone. It's a corporate tie-in. I have a feeling it seems like it was mandated or something because the whole thing just screams Blumhouse Productions. Make sure to watch these movies. Blumhouse made them. Wow, like it's nothing really interesting going on. There's some stages. There are some cool sound effects like the phone ringing and various things. And I do like the lighting. The lighting is cool, and I do think the sound, like the music they're playing, is actually pretty good. I think they have a weird selection of songs that kind of works pretty well. But yeah, it's basically just a photo op zone with Blumhouse characters. I'm happy at least it isn't clogged. I haven't experienced that problem, which is a good thing. And I have had some fun interactions, particularly with the baby face, which I feel so sorry for their mask because it's not very good at all. Just if you compare the baby face masks from even the house to this one, it's not very good. But I'll tell you, those actors in those costumes playing that role are some very very fun, and I've had some fun interactions with them, and my brother has too. So that's a highlight. But yeah, and some of the characters they chose to showcase on their stage is a little strange. Like, I think when Premium Scream Night happened, pictures of the construction worker on the stage were floating around, and it took everyone like, "Who the hell is that? What character is this?" And then it took people a while to be like, "Oh, Purge. I guess it's from the Purge, one of the Purge movies," which was a strange choice for one of the main stages. But yeah, it's a Blumhouse photo op zone, and if that's what you want, then you're gonna love it. And if that's not what you want, then you're probably not gonna like it. And I don't think there's any in between there.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. I don't really have much else to add on this one. I didn't expect myself to love this one, and I didn't love it. Um, it's kind of what you thought you were gonna get. You're gonna get the um, iconic characters from a bunch of movies that you probably aren't gonna watch more than a couple of times. Um, other than the Black Phone, which I think is actually a pretty good, rewatchable movie. But all these others that are featured in here are not really like necessarily iconic movies that you're gonna go back and rewatch a bunch of times.
Yeah. Also, Jonathan, the construction worker is from a new show called Teacup.
What? I thought
Oh,
no,
It's
I thought it was
not.
from The Purge.
No, it's Teacup is a new James Wan horror show on Peacock this year.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
and then that's not
Yeah.
very described very well because you're like,
No.
who is this random guy?
I
Yeah,
only know about it because we looked it up in line for something.
oh, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I was like, wait a second. The purge people are on the floor. What? Yeah, no, I know that's really I don't understand that choice either. Cause it's like that Wolfman photo op that doesn't have anybody in it yet. We don't know anything about it.
So wild, so wild.
they at least should have put teacup in the back or whatever. They should have put a sign back there so you know
Yeah.
what it
hmm
is.
Maybe that should have been the like meet and greet photo op thing instead of the Wolfman movie. Cause like again, we at least know what this teacup thing is that's coming. I don't know. I think that the zone is fine. I like agree with everything you guys are saying, but I'm not on like I'm not negative about it because at least it's not duality and it's actually a scare zone. You know what I mean? Like it's there. I think the lighting is really cool, and the smoking section in Central Park has like the prettiest view of it from across the lagoon.
mm.
So I think it's got a little like soft spot in my heart already, just because like looking out at the event, you get the pink and blue everywhere, but then there's like this teal glow coming from San Fran, and it's just really cool, especially on like a misty kind of night that we had after it rained. It was really pretty. So
I Yeah, I will say, as taking a little step back a little bit from like a casual standpoint, I do think this is probably going to be the casual's favorite zone.
mm-hmm.
You know, they it's a zone that they can actually take selfies with of some of these iconic characters from these new era of films. Um, I do wish they maybe had a little bit more of that. But they like of like the really iconic ones from like the Blumhouse. They some of the really iconic ones from like the Purge and stuff are missing though. That's like what I'm confused by. Like some of these other really iconic Blumhouse characters, other than Megan and the Grabber, are missing from this zone.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that's enough time on that zone. Let's move on to Swamp of the Undead, where I don't have too much to add, but I can say a lot more from the spoiler perspective, and that's that all those details that they put in don't don't show because the lighting package is not what we expected. Like, yeah, they
Mhm.
kind of added that water level line, but like it's not bright at all. And I don't mean bright as in like a wow, I can see everything in here, but like everything's too dim to the point where that the lighting packages aren't really adding anything at all, and you just feel like you're walking through a dark zone, and one that has all that level of detail that it's not doing justice the work that was put into that zone. Um, I also think I still just kind of don't love the zombies as scare actors. They're not going to be my favorite creatures to put in anything. And they act a little bit too much like zombies. You can tell that show direction is kind of the like traditional zombie. You know, they aren't really doing much different. And on the first night or two, their masks were not tucked in, and it looked pretty bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a zone that has a lot of potential. I think change the show direction a bit, maybe crank that lighting up because it's there, it's present. Uh, get it more focused on the props that could really use it, and I think the zone could definitely jump. But right now, it's very just to me.
Yeah, I think I actually do kind of like this one just because I am kind of a scenic core. Like when it comes to if something's really gonna get me, and I maybe I think it's why I don't necessarily love a torture fair, and we're getting to Demon Queens soon, but maybe why those one don't necessarily grab me as much as some of the others from previous years in those areas. Um, I really like a really detailed scenic, like the eye candy. I'm not necessarily someone who's going to like sit in a zone and just really watch like the nuances of this character interaction, things like that. Or but I will definitely sit there for a long time and look at like the scenic stuff. So this is one they've put a lot of detail in this one, and it does show. And it's the only one I think of the year that they've actually put a ton of detail in. I do think that the other two, and I get why it's like logistically you can't put a bunch of detailed sets that have to stay out the whole time when you have this new parade. I totally get it. Um, I hope that's not the future that we live in, but I get it for at least this year. Um, but this particular one, I do think they spent a lot of time doing the scenic, and I really like it. I really the 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 masks of the stuff, everything else you said, I agree with too. But I can overlook that because there is a lot of a nice scenic in this one.
I like this zone. I don't think that it's gonna be anything that I remember that fondly moving forward, but I'm not like I think it's good. The one thing that I really do enjoy, and I think the zone does very well, is that it has a lot of actors just being able to swivel between the hordes of gets. I've experienced that more during my runs now than I think I have in jungle with actors really like getting in the middle, like really getting some good scares in, not afraid to sort of go in and out of the crowd. And I think that's a really good element compared to maybe some of the past zones that have been in this location. So I think that is a huge plus. I also think the sound design and music they play in this particular location is really, really good, and a reason why I'd want to hang out because I really do like the loop. I really do like the sounds. I think they pull that off really well. But yeah, when I'm going back and thinking about it, and to be honest, I really do need more runs. I really do. But the for me, the 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 sets and stuff are really like sort of drowned out by A, the lighting, B, the fog. It's kind of hard for me to get super immersed in the environment because of that, even if everything else I think works pretty well. But surprisingly, I'm not against the zombies. I thought I was going to be. I really did. That was like maybe my one, concern. But I've kind of had a lot of fun, and I really like seeing the actors play around and really act their heart out, with as these characters and scare people. I actually kind of dig it. And maybe it's just because I don't know, I still haven't had that zombie overload like a lot of you guys did with The Walking Dead. So maybe that's why. But I like this zone. I think it's good. I want it to see it progress. I want it to see it grow because I do think this has a really good chance at ending up as my number two if it has a steady increase going forward throughout the season in terms of just, every aspect about the zone. I think it can get to number two.
I should have gone before you, John. Because it sounds like you are the most positive about it. I don't dislike this zone. I think it's fine. I think it is it's getting a little convoluted in my head with jungle, and I know they're different, but I don't know what it is. Maybe I just need to go in it more, but right now it's giving the same in my brain. But I also did not go that way a lot throughout the weekend. I'm curious to see how it evolves. I don't really care about zombies. I didn't see The Walking Dead at HHN. I'm also going to talk about Demon Queens because I know we want to get to the houses. So I I like it. I think that it's giving exactly what they said they were going to give with the cerebral side of horror, but you have to be in the zone for like 5 or 10 minutes to like catch that part of surreal invading all of the minions' brains and the queens. And if you don't catch that, it's not as obvious.
Yeah, I had no clue that was a thing.
Yeah,
Like
it
literally,
is.
yeah, just to keep it short because we do want to get the. I had no clue that was even a thing, and if I had known that and I was spent like that may have changed my opinion on. I'm glad we're not ranking
Totally understand.
for that reason. But yeah, I had no clue that that was a thing going on. It for me, it's hard to really like to tell what is going on there in the couple of passes that I've gone through, other than there are these really cool, well designed characters, but not with a lot of well designed sets and scenic. Just kind of your generic, kind of purple, gooey looking stuff.
Cat in the Hat slime.
I think that it is visually one of the like most striking things that they've done, and they took chances on the queens and stuff like that, and I think that that's really interesting, and on Surreal herself. I think that that is a whole experiment on character design that they really haven't tapped into a lot.
Uh, I'm going to keep this one short by default because mainly I have to say to be decided. I
Mhm.
like the vibe. I really like Surreal's moment on stage. A lot of it seems to really kind of be super pacing reliant. Like there are show moments kind of throughout and the way they time the way things happen. And I haven't had that much time in the zone yet to really grasp it all. So I think there is promise. I just can't really say one way or another yet whether it's gonna click for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. It's hard to really say a lot about this zone, but the things I will say is that the music itself and the vibe that it gives off, I love. I really do like the music they're playing. I think it works really well, and I'm excited to sit in the zone a lot of it because of that. I'm excited there are no chainsaws in here and that it could just be the characters. I think that's a huge improvement. I like the way the actors that I've seen are scaring people in the sense that they're not usually trying to jump scare, but they're kind of just trying to get you to in your face and sort of look at you and sort of just do a little movement and then get out of the way. I think that is another element that is really fun and unique because it plays into the psychological more than Sinister's just straight up like jump scare raw gonna cut you or whatever, anything like that. You're gonna tear off your skin. This one just like no, look at it, really take that in, and I think that's fun show direction there. And the lighting on the big stage, the red lighting is absolutely gorgeous at night. It is very, very well done. And I mean, the set itself, I think that main set and set piece is fantastic. But that lighting really makes it pop and is one of the most visually striking things I've seen in the Hollywood zone in a while. So yeah, I need more time to really get opinions on it, but those are some of the positives that I have already. Just going through it a couple times.
All right, well, let's get to it. Let's get to our houses, the way I think what we're going to do it is we're going to talk about them while we rank them. Who wants to go off? We're going to have to keep it short, because, and next week we'll really deep dive in our thoughts. But who wants to go with their number 10?
I can go because I think I can summarize this in just a couple sentences. My number 10 is A Quiet Place. And while there are a lot of positives about this, I think we're in spoilers, obviously. I think the animatronics are really cool. I think they tell the story the best way they can in terms of, doing both of these movies. And I think there's some cool effects and sets and the way they, the finale's fun. There's a lot of great things about this house. But the reason it's at 10 is I think its main premise, the main thing that it's trying to do, or the main stick of the movie is be quiet or else you're going to die or whatever. And that's the whole reason the movies are unique, isn't translated in this at all. Like they try, but at the end of the day, it just triggers like every other house. And I think because that premise to me doesn't really come through, doesn't really work. In my personal opinion, it's going to be at 10. And the fact that almost all the scares are animatronic / puppets. And that's going to lead to a lot of stagnation throughout the run because they're not people and they cannot get better. They're kind of stuck where they are already and they can't really move forward. But yeah, that's my number 10.
That's also my number 10. It's fine. I don't think there's any bad houses. I think that this would be above a lot of other houses in a couple other years. So whatever. The main thing I want to complain about in my few sentences is in that big finale scene. She looks like a fucking jazz singer in a club up there, putting her thing up to the microphone while she's up top, and the two scenes are going on either side, and it really fucking bothers me. I hate it. I hate that. And that is not why this is 10. I just think that it's a meh house, but that really fucking bothered me. And I've only had one run. So it's really, oof.
Duff, is it your number 10?
Yeah, if you can't add on to that, I guess I'll go to my number 10. And I know this is pretty high on a lot of people's list, but for me, it's going to be Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Again, not a bad house by any means, a pretty strong number 10. But I think a lot of the things I'm hearing are that it's just so much fun. I don't get what makes it like a super fun house. I will say the positives. I think the effects that they use, there's like some really really good ones, and they're just used all over the place. So it's a very kinetic house. There's always movement and there's always some energy going on. I think the way they kind of lay out the story, it's not full book report, but it kind of is. And I don't think it tells the story well. It really does just kind of feel like scene, 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 scene. I don't like the Garaka design in the climax scene near the finale. I think the Stinger Garaka is a better design. I don't know why the fuck that one's not in the house. Yeah, it's just something that really isn't my thing, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm not looking for a fun walk-through experience. I don't need the scariest house in the world. I'm not judging houses fully based on scares by any means. I just don't get the huge fun factor here that everyone else seems to be getting, I guess.
Okay, my number 10, and I feel like I'm about to get murdered. So I'm just gonna say it. My number 10 is Slaughter Cinema 2. And I'm going to preface it why, and this is going to be the longest I talk probably on any of them. So I'm gonna just take a few minutes to explain why, because I feel like it really, I have an actual reason. I don't want this to turn into just like a Dragons thing where I just like, like I have justification of why I didn't like it. Um, I feel like the actual how I really wanted to like this. I really wanted to like it. It was my number two, and I don't necessarily have nostalgia to the other property because it was not a house I went to go through, but I know how much other people loved it, and I love the I've watched walkthroughs, and I really do think the first one is something I definitely would have loved. All of the but the thing about the first one is all of the movies were all had some sort of camp and kind of fun out there, and just like, oh, that's really like interesting, that's creative. For this one, in my opinion, these, other than maybe one or two, these felt like to me are as like, what do we have in the back that we can put in, like the Christmas one and the Mardi Gras one, like what are props that we have to use that we can just kind of save money on. I'm gonna be honest. It like the we have two different zombie ones. One's a zombie clown one. The other one is like zombie robots. It just doesn't necessarily work for me. The ones that do work for me are the heavy metal hell. I think that's a really fun scene, and I do think the Jaws one is a fun scene, and the zombie strippers is a fun one. But other than that, it feels like to me, um, like if there was only like two or three rooms, and they're actually literally just the rooms because of the way that they do this house, where the transitional hallways, you're not going to get scared in them. There's nothing in there, because none of the posters have like um silhouettes, or there's no scares in those rooms, which I do think that could have added something in there if they, in the actual transitional hallways, if there were scares in there, like they do the drop down with the Beast Baby, or the silhouettes, or like some scare, like you have the first one that you're like, but the second one maybe there is a scare in there. I think it would have had some more dynamic in here, other than just being like, oh, okay, it's going to tell me what this is, and then on this next one, um maybe eventually I will start to like it, but right now this is my number 10. It's just not for me.
I do think we have a duty to our viewers. We made like a bet, like before this, while we were like preparing in speculation season about like what house was gonna get a room that was from the original house, like a sequel room or a prequel room or whatever. Um, none of the houses got a room, so
No,
I don't know what we do
I'd
about
say
that.
technically the closest would be Pumpkin Guts
Yeah.
because there's an actual scare actor from Pumpkin
Oh,
Guts
and I hate the
Really?
finale. I totally the what they build to. It's just the posters. The other one with the drop down. Can't stand the finale, guys. Like it builds up to this thing, and it's just like, oh, but here's all these posters of the stuff you actually like. I like I can't stand the finale. I If it maybe built up to like, oh, you're gonna actually have the swamp yeti, and you're gonna have some of these other like characters other than just the Beast Baby, I think maybe I would have started to like grow on me, but or like it just didn't work for me.
fair.
Okay.
All right, who wants to hop to their number 9?
I mean, I can. So mine is museum, and that is again not museum's fault. I feel like I've only gone through all these houses once, and I had a really shitty run. So it is where it is, and next week hopefully it can be higher once I've gone through it a couple times. It did not disappoint me. It just has not hit yet. But I do think scenically it kind of gives us kind of puppet theater in the way that like the second floor is collapsing through in some places. And I really fuck with that. But yeah, unfortunately it is my 9.
I guess I'll hop in next. And my number 9, not too far off others, is A Quiet Place. I do think it works. I think they did make it work in this setting as a house. I think some of the scenes, setting wise, are phenomenal. That dock scene adds so much depth, truly impressive. I think the puppets look great. Um, I just think it's a bit repetitive in the way they scare, and maybe too much reliance on puppets. As cool as they are, It just makes everything feel repetitive, and not just from the puppets, but every other scare. There's no creative scare design. It's just kind of puppet jumps at you, puppet jumps at you, human jumps at you, puppet jumps at you, human jumps at you, making it just a tad boring. It is beautiful. I think, again, the concept works enough. I'm never taken out of it. I think they kind of just raise the levels of audio on all kind of those like just natural noises like waters and tripping and then just small noises. They raise that level to make it sound quiet, like no noise is really being made outside of that. So until something happens, of course. So I think it works. I just don't like how the story is necessarily unfolding and how that leads to your interactions with the characters and or puppets.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off. My number 9 is A Quiet Place too. But I will say that The Quiet Place probably the best scare of the, and it's only going to scare you once. Um, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because most of these people who experience these houses are only going to go through them once. And that is that very opening scare in the dark hallway, that you think is just going to be a traditional black hallway, and then all of a sudden the lights come up, and that very first um, angel gets you. That terrified me when that first happened. I thought that was an amazing way to start, and then it goes right in, kind of like a cold open right into A Quiet Place sign. I thought that was really a fun way to do it. Other than that, though, once you got into it, I agree with Duff. It's um, just kind of repetitive. I do think the scenic is nice though, and I may potentially, if the scares get better, it may raise up on my list. But it is my number 9. But it's still, I think, honestly, I don't think any of the houses are bad. We're going from like all good houses, in my opinion. All right, number 8. Who wants to go?
Oh, I still have my
Oh,
number
you have your
9.
number 9. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if this one is controversial or not. I'm not sure. I don't know your guys' list, but my number 9 is Monstros. Um, and it's basically because it's almost the same exact thing from Hollywood's. I kind of was really wanted them to go a completely different direction, and they kind of do, but not really. It's sort of the same flow. There's some better scenic that I enjoy. They have some good scares. I think Lechuza and Taladapucci are handled a lot better, but I think the things that it doesn't do as well are really, really hurt it, especially because it's a essentially Orlando's looking at that and saying, what can we improve upon it? I think they messed up El Cibon section. I do not think it works as well. I don't know why he's not on stilts or like under a hidden platform the entire time. There are points you can just see a normal sized guy just like standing. And you're like, oh, okay. And other sections where they have the sack, and then it's like we go in it, and then you're just in the pulqueria. It's like, oh, but what? It's like interesting. Um, the facade got, which is really funny. La Muerte, I think it's really cool. You get to go up close and personal with him, but he starts his little spiel, and then you're in the next room because it's too short of a room, which sort of messes up that whole intro atmosphere. And the ending has a spirit. I think it's like a spirit Halloween animatronic of like his head just going back and forth, saying, like this grave is for you. It's just, I don't know. I think it can improve with scares and maybe better runs with more actors and stuff. I do think it has room to grow, but because it's so similar to Hollywood's and it doesn't excel like with every aspect that Hollywood's did, it's just gonna be at 9 for me for now because it just feels like, it's monstrous.
Well, Jonathan, it's not super controversial for me because it's my number 8. Uh,
Oh,
I would like to point out again, my 4 through 8 is kind of interchangeable. And the way I created this list, because I truly just couldn't decide on my own, is I did one of those things where you basically select one versus each other, like head to head, each one, and it'll give you your list at the end. But that did leave Monstros at number 8. I do think it is better executed than Hollywood's. I think the scenic is better. I like that La Muerte is truly a storyteller in this one. I do feel like there's elements I would have liked to see from Hollywood as well, like La Muerte outside the facade and um, kind of just how things are laid out. But I do think it's an improvement that we now jump in the order of Tlahuelpuchi, El Cirbon, and then La Lechuza. And then after, you kind of get a little mashup as well, which is cool. Um, there is a big bummer at the end there with the animatronic, if you want to
Oh
call it
God.
that, La Muerte, who's standing over the grave that reads Tu. Um, he just kind of jerks his head to the right, and or I get yeah his right, and that's it. So that's a little disappointing. But otherwise, I do think it's a tad better than Hollywood's. However, I saw it last year in a similar fashion, obviously not the same, and it just doesn't stack up as well in this lineup as Hollywood's did in Hollywood.
Yeah, I can piggyback because it's also my number eight. Um, I was really hoping that there would be like some added, like Orlando-fied of this, like some at least one or two really big, scenic scenes, and nothing really wowed me in this one. Other than that, I think the stuff that wowed me was all from Hollywood. The animatronics and the stuff like the giant sack. So some of the stuff that I really like from Hollywood made it here, but I was really hoping for more. And that doesn't necessarily make it a bad house because it was my number two at Hollywood, but and it could potentially grow, but it's my number eight right now.
Well, I can't piggyback, but I am going to piss some people off. I know I mentioned Bad House Run before, and another house that I had honestly, an abysmal run in. And the only reason I think I've seen this house was editing the walkthrough video, and that was Goblin's Feast. Um, I don't know if it was cast change. I don't know what I did to piss the HHN gods off, but I really wanted to love this house, and I think I will. But when I tell you, it wasn't even people in front of me and behind me getting the scares. No one was getting goblins. I think I saw like a couple, and that was it. So I'm really excited to go back and see it, and hopefully next week I can have a more positive outlook on it. But at least it's number 8. It could be 10, like a quiet place.
It's true.
Cool.
Uh,
Jonathan, you have number eight, right?
yeah, and my number 8 is Museum Deadly Exhibits. I do see this at like number 10 on a lot of people's rankings. I don't think it's like 10 worthy for me. I do think the way I don't know, like I don't think it does everything it can with the concept. It kind of plays it a little safe in terms of the scares and what it's trying to do. And I think that hurts it a little bit. I do think there are times where it can get really repetitive and sometimes kind of boring. But it also could be due to just some bad runs. I have not had the best runs in this house. Um, I really think it has potential to improve. I think for the Norwegian scene especially is incredible, and there's some really fun things here, and I really do want it to grow. But right now, I think 8 is a pretty good spot for it until it, just gets better throughout the run.
I can piggyback because that's my number seven. Um, I think this one I might eventually like. Yeah, it's kind of one of those where I like what's going on here, but it's not all gelling for me. I did have the premium scream. We only ran it once, and I had a bad run. Our whole group did, and so we didn't end up going back. It was nearly one of the only ones that we only ran once on premium scream. But the other time I ran, I had a camera because I was filming. So this one, I really didn't get to necessarily experience it the way I would want to. But I did with the camera. I feel like I got most of the scares, and I like what they're doing here. I think I might just start like it. I don't know. I'm iffy on this one. I may like it. I may hate it. It may end up my number 10. I might just start to fall in love with Slaughter. It may, who knows? This one I'm just kind of out in the air still. I don't know what to think of it.
All right, well, I guess we can hop to number 7. And I put, although I feel like it should be a little higher. Well, these rankings will change weekly for sure. Triplets of Terror. I think there's some really fun scenic. I do enjoy the triplets, the main characters of this house. I think there's some pretty fun, gruesome kills in here. And I really think the true crime podcast aspect is a lot of fun. And I wish it really showed throughout the house instead of kind of just being really the one scene. Um, but I think it is one that has a lot of room to grow. It's a house I haven't really had a good run through personally, and there's a few on this list like that, and that happens in opening weekend. It just takes time to really connect and for scare actors to really find their stride. Um, but yeah, I could see this being a riser. I don't have much bad to say about it. It's just really hasn't been a good run yet, so I can't fully judge what I'm seeing quite yet. Except saying I do wish that uh, the true crime podcast aspect really flowed through the house more strongly.
Well, let me piggyback off of you because that's also my number seven. And I agree. I wish that we had some kind of like, even if it was just like audio throughout of the podcast, maybe, and not just in that one part. I don't know. But I'm really into it. And it's funny because not only like people I was going with, but other people were like, wow, a podcast in a house. How do you feel? And I'm like, well, it wasn't our show. But I'm like, we're kind of represented. I get it. I don't think there's been a podcast in a show in a house before. So, woo. I'm just a big fan of this. I'm a big fan of slashers though, too. So, this is giving me all those vibes. You kind of get a slasher for everyone. You have, Junior, big, like kind of the Jason kind of the group. You have the little rabbit who's like little mastermind, and then you have the bitch that takes the saw to the fucking face. Like, Jesus Christ. I'm really into this house, and I had a really good run, and I can't wait to have like even better runs through this once they get more reps in.
Well, I can't talk about triplets yet, but my number seven is something that I never expected to be this low in hype, and I think it will improve. Honestly, before Sunday, it was nine and maybe 10, depending. But it's Universal Monsters Eternal Bloodlines. I think a lot of this was because of my first couple runs were absolutely abysmal. And I know a lot of people had the same experience where something about maybe opening night or the next night after, there were people going through, and I know they were saying, we missed so much. And I don't know what it is, if it's casting, if it's or whatever, but um, I've had some truly, you know, runs that completely I'd walk through and I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. I don't understand what the story was. I don't know what's going on, but I just had a great run with Duff on Sunday, and that definitely did bump it up a few notches. I get what they're trying to do. I think it's interesting to make the house more of a tragedy. I think that's a fun take on it and an interesting aspect for a monster's house. Um, it's just I feel like they might have stuffed this one with too much. I don't know if we needed the Bride of Frankenstein Lives tie-in. I don't know if we needed to go to Egypt. I feel like we're kind of jump around a lot and there's a lot of things happening and a lot of plot points meshing together, and that by the time you get to the end, some of the most important elements, such as seeing the main character die, don't really happen. And instead, we just get the head. I think we did figure out that the candles going out was the significance of like, that's when it happened. But still, for people going for one or two runs, it's kind of hard to tell. It's more symbolic, which is interesting, but it's I don't know. I think this house makes a lot of choices that are weird, but I do like the sets. I like the effects. I love the tag team scares, and I think it will improve over time. But yeah, as a sequel to my favorite Monsters house, it's not doing it for me, unfortunately.
All right. Who wants to do their number six?
I guess I'll start again. Why not? It was number one on my hype list. Now it's number six in reality. That is Museum Deadly Exhibits. Uh, just like Triplets of Terror, I really have not had a great run of this by any means. That might just be the case in this house potentially because I haven't heard many people who say they have. But I'll still hope for better runs because it really feels like it's been a lot of holes, a lot of bad timing. But I do like a lot of what I see. I think another house where there's a lot of effects in it makes it feel very alive and there's just kinetic energy flowing throughout it. And I love that. I obviously is not what really anyone expected it to be, but I didn't have too many expectations for it, except I was hoping there'd be a couple big moments, whether that's just pure like scale with show scene, and we never really get that. I do enjoy that you can really see the story and like the rotting stone kind of growing stronger throughout the house. The growth is more and larger, um, and I think there's a lot of fun character designs in here as well. So maybe with some better runs, uh, I will get to bring this up quite a bit. But it feels like it's not really a house that's going to drop for me either. Like it just feels like it's a good house, right? Like I think the bones are fully there for that. I just don't know if it can take that next step.
Cool. My number six is Triplets of Terror. Um, I'll get it out of the way. I think definitely a missed opportunity on the podcast to not actually like that. You do like original podcasts that tell the stories. Why didn't you make a mock podcast to tell the story? That like they could have made that anyway. I'm not gonna. I could go on forever about what how they missed opportunity not just to make a true crime podcast and release it as the story. That I think that would have been great. But the actual house, I like this one actually. I think a little bit more than I thought I would. Um, I think the characters are really they're really good and they're having fun. You can tell that they really like they want to scare you, at which not maybe not quite insidious level, but they definitely are having a lot of fun here. And I think that, but and I think some more runs might potentially make this rise, or I could start to get bored of it. It's who knows what's gonna where this is gonna end up. But right now it's at 6, which I think is pretty good on a good year.
All right. So my number six, if people have been keeping track, I have not mentioned Ghostbusters yet, and that's probably surprising because it's my number
I
six,
haven't either. Yeah,
and that was my number 10 coming into Hype List. So I am a known hater of Ghostbusters, but this house was really fucking fun. I had an amazing run. There is that hallway of I'm not educated on the Ghostbusters, so I don't know what the ghosts are from, but it's like a pinball of ghosts. I know the library ghost is there. Um, but that was great. It wrecked multiple people in my party, including me. It was I just had a great time. The little Stay Puffs are everywhere. We got the Ecto finally. We got the firehouse. Like it just kind of hit everywhere I thought that the 29 house kind of missed for me as someone who's like, I'm fine. But yeah, Ghostbusters is my number six. I don't expect it to end here, but here we are.
All right, here's my most controversial take. I know it is. Here we go. Number 6, Insidious: The Further. And I think that's strictly because I have not gotten a great run of it yet, which kind of stinks because I know a lot of people have. I know a lot of people have gotten their shit absolutely wrecked in this house, and I've been through it a couple times. It just has not happened to me yet, and I'm kind of worried that maybe if I'm looking for it now, it's not going to. Just like a curse of like I'm gonna get that run and it never happens. I think, like I do think for a house based on the franchise, this is the best they could have done, and I think they do a very good job. I think there's a lot of creative ways they tell the story and sets, and the intro of even going inside a red door, as cliched as is really good. It is really good. So that's why it's at 6. I think it has a lot of good things going for it, but without the scares, it doesn't do that much for me because I don't really care about the property, and a lot of the sets are just moments from the property where I'm like, okay, yeah, that's from Insidious. But once I get that run, once it happens, I'm sure it's going to skyrocket. It just has not happened yet, and this is where it's going to go.
I'm gonna assume no one can piggyback off that
no.
one, so I'm gonna hop to number 5 here, where my trend of not having a great run continues and ends with Goblin's Feast. Uh, the thing is, I've probably had one solid run, but that's about it. Like everything else was actually kind of bad. That hand I've never caught still. But I think it's very impressive that while like I walk through his house, I'm like, man, I didn't get a lot out of that. Just the vibe, the sound design, the lighting design, the immersiveness, the sets, the scenic, the the scare actors themselves and the character design, along with the triggers. Obviously, we went trigger heavy in this house. Um, it, the fact that it can carry it to 5 without actually getting the good experience, pretty impressive. So it does definitely have room to jump from 5 for sure.
All right, my number 5. I think I'm gonna go with Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. I was between two. I think this is where falls. I really liked this house. I didn't know I was gonna like it this much. I think it's fun. I think there's some really beautiful sets. I think there's some different types of scares that are fun. I think there's like a silliness to it that I didn't quite get from the movie necessarily. That is kind of in here. It's a little fun. Um, I definitely could see myself get bored of this one. It could end up a little bit lower. But right now, with my 3 or 4 runs, I'm loving it. I like this one.
All right, yeah, I agree, Mike. My number 5, it has fallen from my number 1. It is Universal Monsters: Eternal Bloodlines. Again, I didn't have the best run, but it's giving what we want monsters to give. It's beautiful. It tells a story, a heartbreaking story. Oh, holy shit, Saskia dies. What the fuck? That was not what I thought going into this house at all. I was expecting Bride to die because Frankenstein dies, and I just saw her giving herself up for him. So that was kind of shocking, but I need more time in this. I also think that the scare actors need more time in this, and I feel like this is not a fully cast house yet. So maybe in a couple weeks, once we get those extra scare actors that kind of dwindle in, it'll get better. But right now, it's my 5. Still not bad.
And my number 5, I think it's the highest out of everyone here, is Triplets. Triplets of Terror. And I really, really like it. I like the storytelling. I think it tells a really fun story, has great characters, great sets, and lots of gore and just things you want out of a slasher house. My main problem and why it's at 5 is that I think it's way too fucking short. You start the house and it ends almost immediately, and it's hard to put it higher, at least right now, because of the length. So that's where Triplets is going to be for me.
All right, I will go because it's kind of piggyback of Jess, where my number 4 is Universal Monsters: Eternal Bloodlines. I've had bad runs of this house. I've had good runs of this house. I I like it. I like it. There are a few things missing. If the bungee if the bungee's not going, and that really does affect this house. I feel like this house is really reliant on a few things and like a few like really iconic moments. And if they're not there, and or if you miss them, like you could walk out this house, you'll be wait, Saskia dies. Like totally missed that. Like there are a few things in this house that you could really, because it's so story driven, that if you don't get, then you're gonna totally miss. But when it does click, it clicks, and I really do like what they're doing here. When it works, when it doesn't work, it doesn't necessarily totally work, but when it does, it does.
Well, I'm going to hop right in 'cause that's also my number 4. I think Eternal Bloodlines is a great story. I think I was one of the lucky few who, on their first run, immediately just got a great run, and the story was told perfectly to me. So I was lucky in that fact. I think the scenic is also very pretty. I love that they were willing to kill off Saskia like that. Didn't fully expect it, but they did brutally. Her like Legends Collide esque head being held. Um, when I looked at this 4 through 8, where it's kind of interchangeable, this is the one that immediately stuck out at the top of that right now. And I don't know if it can get higher, but I don't. It's good. I do really like it. It doesn't have the highs of past Universal monsters necessarily, but it is a very good house.
Yeah. My number 4 is Insidious. Um,
Wow.
yeah. I've only I've only had one run through this one. The only one I've done twice are Monstrous and Sweets. But I only got to do this once, and it wrecked my fucking life, as it's wrecked everyone else's life. I really did not see a lot of it. This was another one where thank God I edited the YouTube video because I saw the whole house that way.
Oh, and they were giving it to me.
Oh,
They,
Mike, they were eating that fucking camera with a spoon. It was
oh, I
great.
know.
I've seen every corner of that house. Oh my God. Now. So like that did kind of play into effect, but hearing everyone else, I agree. This house is on rocking on all cylinders from, the first day it opened. And I feel like I hope it doesn't fall off because that can happen. I don't see it happening, but right now they're fucking killing it.
And my number 4 is Slaughter Cinema 2, which I was kind of expecting it to be higher, but this is where it landed. I really do enjoy it. I think it's a really fun house. Um, and without really diving into it too much, I do think there are some negatives that do bring it down a bit and might cause it to go down further in the season. I don't think every movie works. I think a lot of them aren't exactly what I'm looking for. And I do think the transitions might be a little too long compared to the original Slaughter Cinema. But I do really still enjoy it. I think it's a good successor, and I want them to continue to make these types of houses with the movies that are different in a Slaughter Cinema environment. So I'm gonna put it at 4.
I feel a little vindicated based on some of the stuff you said. I know you didn't have
Yeah,
it as low, but the least I know I'm not crazy because you saw some of the things that I saw.
you aren't. I completely understand all of your points.
Well, I guess I'll move on to my number 3. It very well could have been Slaughter Cinema, but instead, for this week, I'm going to put Sweets. Um, I think they did a phenomenal job with this house, especially in that space. What we talked about a lot is how do you get a factory to work there? They kind of just didn't. They said, yeah, you're in a factory, but it's not going to feel like it at all. They kind of made it its own thing. I love the vibe. It is super campy while also being gore filled. I think the kids are highlights. Their big moments are so much fun. I think there's still scares in here. The lighting's great. The music's great. It's a great house that very well could have been number 1. And maybe one week it will be.
Cool. My number 3 is Goblin's Feast. And if you had asked me after Premium Scream Night, I could have easily said number 1. This thing was clicking. I do think that things may have broken, or there's less goblins in my second run. I think it was probably my worst run with the camera. Maybe Eternal Bloodlines was a little bit worse, but I do think I didn't necessarily get a good run on Premium Scream Night. Those two, particularly, I think were just kind of bad runs. But I am really excited to get more runs on this. The hand, when it works, it blew me away. I love the hand. I love the scene. Some of the really scenic rooms. I love the windmill, or the water, the watermill. I like how big the goblins are. I thought when you I like the scale of things that they were able to do in there. I just really like it, and I hope I continue to like it. Um, I'm holding on hope that it can get back to what I saw at Premium Screen, because that was so good. What I saw at Premium Screen, on the first night, it was already not quite working, but I only got one run, so we'll see. That's what it is from now on.
All right, my number 3 is Monstrous, and I knew I was going to have it ranked the highest the minute I walk through it because I know you guys. And that's not a negative. I just knew you guys were going to think it was too similar. I think it gives me everything I wanted from Hollywood and then some. I do agree the Muerte at the end is fucking trash though. I know we got to speed this up, so that's all I'm going to say. Next week I will kind of dive more into why I ranked it so high, but I had 2 amazing runs through this house.
All right. Well, my number 2. Oh, sorry.
Oh, hi.
Oh, my bad.
Hello.
My bad.
You're
Always
good.
Jonathan. I'm sorry.
We gotta go. We gotta go fast, Jonathan. Rapid fire.
Okay. Bustin', number 3, Ghostbusters. Yeah, Ghostbusters, I never would have thought this would have been as high, but I not only thought it was fun and represented the entire franchise, but I also thought there were very good scares in here that I saw wreck people's shit, including mine, and had the things that everyone wanted from 29s. They put it in here. And I think while the story, I agree, Duff, wasn't told the best, I just can't get over how fun and actually solid scares this house had. So I'm going to put it at 3 for now.
All right, so I guess I'll go to number 2, where I have Slaughter Cinema 2, which I personally think it captured the essence of the original almost perfectly. I don't think it is as good. I think there's a couple scenes, the undead clowns being the standout, that just really felt like a full afterthought and were skipped over. But I think the highs, Mardi Gras Murders, Heavy Metal Hell 3D, I think fucking Cyborgs, Hatchet and Chains, all like really, really good scenes that fully live up to what Slaughter Cinema is.
All right. Well, my number two is going to be Major Sweets. I think it's great. I think it broke the Fast and Furious curse. I think it gives old HHN House kind of. I know Mike compared it to kind of Saws and Steam the other day, but yeah, I think it's great.
All right. My number 2 is Goblin's Feast. Holy shit, this house has the sets, it has the scares, one of the scariest houses of the weekend for me, and it's fucking fun. This is exactly what I wanted out of this house, and while I do think there can be better runs, I'm very excited to see how this improves throughout the season. Amazing house. I love it.
All right, so my number two is Insidious, the Further. And I love this. It's a close number two too. This easily could be my number one. I just like the one above it just a little bit more. But oh my gosh, boy was I wrong. I will uh, if you want to, I will eat crow anytime for about being wrong on having this number 10. This one just blew me away. This is how you do an HHN house. It is scary. It is and it is scary, scary. I like the facade where the red door and how it kind of tells the story when you're walking through. I think this is maybe the best way they've done of this, where we've seen it with like the others that have done this long walk. I think this is the best one that does that, where kind of telling the little bit of the story of how you get hypnotized into the further. um, Boy, I like this one a lot. I think I was a little bit spoiled walking through with a camera, I have to admit. I hope the scares stay up. But man, I love this one. I can't wait to go through this one again.
And out of that top 3 that I think is all very good, I went this week with Insidious the Further. I think it might be my favorite non monsters IP that we've had in a long time. It's incredibly intense to a level that I thought, honestly, Orlando was probably done doing. And I think that the sets also still really do well with a more limited property as far as sets go. Um, the scare design, phenomenal. It never lets up from beginning to end. I think the fucking red door facade is goofy yet amazing at the same time. It's so much fun. I really look forward to walking through this every time, and I want more and more and more. If it keeps it up, it will end my number one easily, easily.
I'll go next. So my number one is Slaughter Cinema 2. And I'm kind of shocked at that because I normally, sequel houses for everyone are hit or miss. But for me, I love nostalgia, but it really has to hit. And this week for me, this really hit. I liked the different genres. I liked that, we did get to see like spaghetti western. We got to see like a cyborg film. Not really a clown movie, but I guess they're calling it clowns. I liked it. And I see kind of, Mike, why you feel like it's not a great sequel. Because I do think for some people it's not going to hit. But I think I also had like the most perfect run. I was just hooting and hollering, and I was kind of drunk at that point in the night. So, and I've only done it once again. So, like, this was very much a perfect setting, perfect moment, perfect people. and it was just the right place, right time, right house, and I really loved it. So I don't think it's gonna end the season in my number one, but for week one, Slaughter Center like knocked it out of the park.
This is why I love HHN, because what you said is totally valid, and it works for you. For like, I have it at number 10.
Yeah,
Will it end of my number 10? Maybe not. But that's the thing about HHN, is that especially this year, is that there's really no stinker. There's no
no,
consensus bad house. So we're sitting here nitpicking when it comes to what is number 10, and then my number 10 could be your number one. I think it's
yeah,
fantastic.
it's
That
perfect.
Yeah.
I love it. I do kind of also live for that. And that's been kind of the consensus I'm seeing online too, is everyone's lists are all over the place. Holy shit, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it is amazing. We don't have this all the time.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I will go with my number one. And I think, honestly, if I'm putting it all together, uh, Jonathan, we might have the same one.
Mm-hmm.
That is Major Sweets Candy Factory. Uh, I just, I've got to do this one a couple of times, and every single time I have both had a fantastic run and have just left loving, loving it, like, and loving life. It's I will say it's not necessarily a scary house. If I had to give it like one criticism, the scares aren't quite there, but everything else, the scenic, the storytelling, the camp, the fun, it's all there. And the special effects, the guest operated triggers, the candy bowl that you're not supposed to touch. There's so many fun little elements here, and uh as this is another one on a different spectrum than Insidious, where Insidious is so scary I want to run it again. This one was so fun I wanted to run it again. Oh my, I loved this one.
This might be, I agree. This might be one of the most fun houses I've ever done at Halloween Horror Nights. And not fun like Ghostbusters. I feel like there's a different type of fun. This is just straight up this like joy in a bottle. Just it's absolutely perfect. Like you said, the storytelling is told so beautifully through the scares. It ties in the HHN lore because you can see so many things relating to the parade and them planning it and everything like that. Um, it takes you through different elements of the factory, different sections. It keeps getting darker and darker with more gruesome stuff going on, yet it's still fun at the same time and has comedy throughout, dark comedy. Major Sweets and Miss Treats are absolutely perfect, and Taffy is the best addition because Taffy is so fun. Factories that way. You will be smushed. Like
Oh,
it's just
the triggers of this house are gonna be. This is the trigger, like bloodlines or whatever. This is gonna be the house where people are just repeating the triggers. Like,
oh my god, yeah.
Destroy the
it's
evidence.
yummy. Destroy the evidence.
That's my favorite.
Oh no, it's good. That's what she says.
Oh, there's one that Miss Sweet says that's like, if the kids don't get you, I'm gonna. It is so funny.
I love the triggers. I think this might be the house that I've loved the triggers, like, from the jump. Like, usually you start to fall in love with the triggers, right? No, this one, like, I left this house and I just loved the triggers immediately.
Mm-hmm. I think one of my favorite ones is like, now that's what I call a sugar rush. Like it's
I
just
like that one.
it's so funny, but the whole time, as funny as it is, it almost makes it scarier because they're having so much fun, like killing so many people. They're having a blast. It's their favorite pastime. Like it's so like, and it feels like they're like a family, just like having a fun day killing all these people. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's really gory too.
mhm.
It's like, it like reminds me like of kind of like that Saws and Steam esque gore that we got from 2011, but wrapped up in sugar. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
a perfect like dichotomy and allegory for what it is. It's like Saws and Steam like covered in sugar. I loved it.
It's absolutely fantastic. I can't believe I doubted this location. I mean, I can. I had reason to. But they made it work so well in this tent, and they made it so tight so the house was long and it wasn't like short. That it really, really, really worked. Even in the fucking queue, they play the music from the zone in the queue. Like, that's attention to detail right
Yeah.
there. The people who made this love the zone. They wanted to give people more of the story. You can tell all the heart that went into it. It's fantastic. And if it's I really think it's gonna stay in one or two. Like, it's gonna be in that. I don't see it moving. And I know there's been some discussion like we don't think maybe there's like an S tier house this year. I think this and maybe goblins are like actual houses that are going to end up in my top 10 because this one especially, it just makes me smile from ear to ear every single time. The music too is so fucking good in
Oh,
that
it's so
house.
good. And
So
full
good.
disclosure for the listeners, I think Duff had to go, and I think he would join in on this 5 minute love fest of it if he was here.
Yeah.
He just had to go, and we're splicing in his number one. He left like 15 minutes ago, so just full disclosure, I'm sure he has a lot to say about Sweets as well in this discussion, but he just happened to leave. So
Yeah, but fantastic house, absolutely stunning. I would never thought a Fast and Furious house would be number one. That's what I get for saying like I was afraid the whole season. It's like, nope, now it's your favorite house. Like, oh, all right.
I kept saying, Jonathan, it's not just the 110. They added more.
It's still
yeah,
the
no.
size of it's still the size of Black Phone.
No, look if you've looked at the
Oh
aerial,
no,
it's
no, it
turned,
can't
and
be.
there's
It
an
can't be,
extra there
Jonathan.
is an extra tent added on. It's not a full tent, but it's like a half tent.
Oh,
It
I
felt
thought
pretty long. It
Yes.
felt
permits it
feels
was just
pretty
Black
long.
Phone.
No, no, because the whole tent has been shifted like completely. We know that. But
Okay.
yeah, like someone's gonna tell me I'm wrong online, but I don't care. The overhead photos that we've seen, it is completely different.
Okay.
Even
Then
if it
yeah.
is the same size, however they utilize um that house, like
It
the
doesn't feel like
layout,
it.
it does not feel like it.
Oh no, not at
And
all.
it is a fairly long house when you just look at the run times on the YouTube videos. And now
Hmm.
there is a little bit of slicing and dicing because I think I got bad runs on two of them, so those are a little bit shorter. But it's a fairly long house comparatively to some of the others.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's like a 6 minute house where like Insidious was like a 7 minute house. If
Hmm.
that gives you
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
So that's HHN33 though, y'all.
yeah.
That's crazy.
What a fun year! I think. Just do you think now? Do you think it's gonna? I'm just gonna ask this question to the two of you that are still here. Do you think this is? If we just flash forward to the end, do you think it's gonna hold up? Do you think there's enough here? Are we gonna get bored of this, or do you think it's really gonna hold up?
No, I think there's enough variety that there's something for everyone. I think that some houses will fall off wait time wise, but that always happens.
Yeah, I do. I have a little bit of fear that maybe just like the whole theme of the event and the kind of mishmash of like the tribute store, not necessarily it fits with the whole marketing, but not necessarily with the actual theme of the event. And this scare zones being a little bit weaker because of the parade. I do worry that some of that other stuff is going to start affecting on what people think of the actual houses. But these actual, it's kind of similar to HHN30, where the actual house and people started to get negative on the houses based on kind of everything else, where we got to see them twice, like the HHN lighthouses, we got to see them before, and we got to, the COVID protocols and some of the stuff that was kind of not actually the houses started to affect the overall feeling of that year. I am a little bit worried that maybe that's going to start to creep in on this. I hope not, because I think overall the actual houses that we have here, and I will die on the hill with 30 as well. We had pretty solid houses overall. I hope it stays, and that the kind of the other stuff doesn't start to affect the feel of what people think of the actual product that we're getting in the houses.
I will say I think your fears are very valid because I'm remembering like when all the lines in 30 were very long and I couldn't do any houses, being stuck in the zones, and I thought that was a very weak zone year, really soured me on 30 because that's all I had when all the lines were long and I didn't
Hmm.
like the zones. And so 30 just ended up being a low year because when you can't do houses, you either A, stand in a long line, if it's not short, or B, spend time in the zones. But if the zones aren't what you're exactly looking for, um, the year tends to sour, and it's just kind of how it works. And I could see that being the case for this year when the lines get long, because they certainly did this weekend, and people don't want to wait those lines because they're really fucking long and they're stuck with the zones. It's either torture fare or I don't know. Like, hopefully the other zones prove themselves and get better. But if I don't, if they're kind of end up where they are right now, do I think there will be changes? I'm not sure how people end up feeling about the year at the end of the day, because as much as we say houses are the most important thing about an event, because they certainly are, zones impact it so much more than people think, especially when they can't do houses. So I do think there's a chance that because of that factor and because the zones I think are weaker this year compared to past years, it's gonna sour it for some people.
I hope not. I have the fear that it will, but I really hope not because this house lineup here is
It's
is really
fantastic.
it's really solid.
Hmm.
I don't want to talk about souring the event anymore, please.
Alrighty. Well, I am just excited to go back next year, though, or next
Next year,
week.
tomorrow?
Next
Next
year.
week. Yes, I'm excited to go back next week. So, all right. Well,
We do have a voicemail.
Hey guys, just wanted to say I hope you guys had a very merry opening weekend over there. From the POVs, everything looked pretty all right, pretty good. I can't wait to hear what you guys had to say about everything. But now it's our turn. It's Hollywood's time now. I'm so excited. I can't wait. All right, keep up all the good work on the show. Take care. Bye.
Thanks so much, Kevin. And you're right. Today is team member preview for HHN Hollywood. We didn't bring it up because this is an Orlando focused episode, but
Yeah.
people are going in the houses as we're talking.
I saw the weekend facade about 5 minutes ago.
Oh,
I'm not trying to hide anything, Jonathan.
that's true. That's true.
It's impossible. It's a month away.
yeah, I'm not
Like,
even going to be able to get to go, so
Yeah.
I can spoil me all you want.
Mike's got a live stream open right now. He's got his feet fucking
I'm
kicked
about
back.
to. I'm about to as soon as we're done here.
I'm not gonna lie. I might watch house walkthroughs tomorrow. It doesn't matter for me. I talked about it before. Like, I have such little like bad memory already that it's gone the minute it's in the brain. I'm sorry. You would think I would know like the Orlando houses like the back of my hand right now because I did edit like half the videos. So no, I don't. I cut videos. I say, "Ooh, look, scary person," and then I go to the haunted houses on my own. So it doesn't matter for me. But
makes
yeah,
sense.
the facade is really cool.
I'm excited. I have a feeling I know what it's going to be, but I'm trying my best to not see it as much as I can.
I wonder when we're done. I wonder what you think it's gonna be. I won't say anything, but all right, let's wrap this up.
I was gonna say it's been a long episode. We were just about 3 hours long when this is all said and done. But as always, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at HHN365, and on TikTok at HHN365Pod. If you could give us a like on YouTube, you will start to see all the content that we're putting out this year. We have an amazing Discord. The link is in the description. And we have a merch shop at hhn365.com. You can leave us a voicemail at 407 906 4134. And we'll see you in the streets.